We're good? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:31. And the first item on the agenda is conflict of interest disclosure. If anybody sees anything on the agenda or anything else where we have a potential conflict. Are there any? Okay. Additions to the agenda. And I do see that there's several possible additions to the agenda. I'm just going through here real quick. Does anybody on the board have any while
I do have one.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over just some pricing at the transfer station that Snook suggested that we might change before we get a construction dumpster, which would be coming, he thought, maybe next week.
Okay.
So just that.
Okay. And we do have a contract here somewhere. Brian Farnham's here. There's a contract for mowing at the school baseball field. Okay. And so we'll try to fit that one in right up at the top, Brian. And is there a did anybody see that contract? There's a contract for mowing. Is it in here?
It was in the file deals, and I looked at it briefly.
I didn't.
And she emailed
Okay.
So the addition to the agenda that I have so far, transfer station and then a contract
for mowing.
Right, contract for mowing. Okay. So, all right, we'll come back to that. Brian, I think there's a piece here that says ask you to fill something out. Yes. So maybe we'll give this to you, and then when we get to it on the agenda, if you don't mind filling it out, go ahead.
No, I don't. I got one right here.
Okay, so 2 additions to the agenda. Anything under public comment? And I think you had something. Ms. Campbell, yes, if.
I do have something I would like to read, but I think I've got to stand over into the light.
Would you mind coming to the table just so that people are watching at home could?
Can I stand here? I got to see this.
Sure.
Sit my eyes
You can stand or you can sit, whatever works best for you.
Okay, I'm going to read this because it explains it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit after. April 19th, Neighbor Appreciation Day. Several years ago, we had a large pile of wood stacked with a covering over it, held up by 3 poles, and the 4th corner attached to a tree. My husband noticed one day the tree was leaning toward the driveway, so he decided to cut the tree at roof level. When he cut it, the corner let go, and down went my husband, along with the running chainsaw. This was April 19th, several years ago, as I stated. Our neighbor across the field heard the saw idling longer than normal and came to check on things. He found my husband sitting at the base of the tree. I was out of town with my ill sister, expecting to stay the night. Our neighbor took my husband to the local health center, but it was during the noon hour and no help was available. My husband, no visible injuries, was left at home while the neighbor went home to get ready for work. Before leaving for work, our neighbor again checked on my husband. He then took him to the Veterans Hospital and left him while he went to work. At the supper hour, I received a call saying, "We are transferring your husband to Dartmouth as we speak. My sister quickly got a neighbor to drive me in my car from Colchester to Dartmouth, as she didn't think I should drive. She also arranged for someone to go down and bring this gal back to Colchester. My husband was at Dartmouth for a few days with serious internal injuries. We are so grateful for quick-thinking, caring neighbors. I often wonder where my husband would be today had it not been for someone who cared. At the time, he was in his 80s and now 90s, and he is doing well. Ginny Campbell. So, I'll sit back down. So, this was several years ago, and before the pandemic, I wrote to the governor with this, not these exact words, but the gist of it is the same. And I wrote to several politicians, and I had 2 people call me, and they were interested in bringing this up at legislature and making it an official, or somewhat, however they do it, day to remember our neighbors. And this is what I am striving to do, whether it's starting in Chelsea, Vermont, or how far we want to take it. But I think it's very, very important to remember the many good things our neighbors do, and there are many, many who do that. You all know that. So this is what I want to see, what can become of this. Someone suggested to me that I talk to the select board, so that's why I'm here. I don't know if anybody's interested or not, but.
So what would you, just to make sure I'm clear, you would propose?
That we make it known to people. Set aside a day. April 19th is what I chose because that's the day this happened.
Sure.
But do something special, or if not as a group, if you've got a neighbor, tell them you appreciate them. I'm sure you have, but you know. But I want to hear more of positive things happening. And this is just.
I mean, I'll say I think that's a very nice story, and I think the idea of a neighbor appreciation day is a reasonable idea. I defer.
We have Groundhog Day and we have other things like that. Why not?
Right.
That's the way I look at it anyway.
What does the board think?
I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure how it gets off the ground, but
I mean, I could go into more detail than this. I mean, he did have serious
yeah.
injuries, you know. But if it weren't for him,
Right.
he might not be with me today, I can honestly say.
I think it's fantastic. I'm glad you brought it forward.
I said, I think it's fantastic. I'm glad you brought it forth. And I know for myself, I would probably have to look into it because I quite honestly would have no idea where to start on how you go about making a day. And maybe I'm thinking too bureaucratic because that's the world I live in. But I'm thinking about how I don't even know how we would do that. So I would have to, or I think we would all have to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Were you looking for something set up by this April 19th?
There's a poster in Will's store right now with one of these that I just read, and it says April 19th, Neighbor Appreciation Day. That's all it says.
Okay.
So I'm pushing for a day to acknowledge our neighbors
Okay.
in any way that you
Grassroots level.
want to do. I don't know if we can do it but I'd like it to, I don't know, I don't speak well.
You're fine.
Be spread, you know?
Yeah.
Not just I appreciate you because you came by to see me today and I haven't seen anybody in a long time. This sort of thing.
Right.
But I want it to go beyond that.
I mean,
I don't-
I don't know the legality of it, but I mean, the select board could, I guess, say that we're supporting April 19th as Neighbor Appreciation Day. Is that, I mean, if nothing else, that's a start, and see where it goes, and maybe next year and subsequent years, see if it could grow into something even more.
Well, this happened several years ago. And so I got all excited about doing something like this. And then it kind of, when I wrote to the legislators and didn't hear anything, I thought, well, I know they're busy and they got other things to do more important than this. But I just wish they had someone write to me and say whether they were interested or no, I don't want to hear any more about it, you know?
Yeah.
So then I got excited again real recently, and then all of a sudden here it is April, and I thought, oh, it got by me. And I should have been on it a couple months ago.
I mean, I guess we could pass a motion saying that we support April 19th as Neighbor Appreciation Day. I don't think there's any harm in that. It seems like a great thing to do.
I mean, my son is behind me on this. He lives up in Calais, Woodbury. And he went so far last year as to have some bumper stickers made. I've got one on my car, my husband's got one on his car, and my son's got one on his car. I mean, you know,
Sure.
it's not official. And I wish it were.
Right.
Then we could really say, you know, those bumper stickers are for real, you know, it's not just somebody's thought for the day.
Right. What is the board? Thoughts from the board?
Well, you don't have to give me an answer, I just want you to know that.
Well-
And this, supposedly, I think it's gonna come out in this week's Herald, something, a letter to the editor this week. So,
I don't see why we can't
So is there?
support that day, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
can't make it a legal day, I
Right.
guess, but,
no,
We could just say that we support it, right?
yeah.
Can say we're sorry later if we're not supposed to.
What's that?
And we can say we're sorry later if we weren't
Right, yeah, I mean,
supposed to.
but saying we support it doesn't mean we're declaring it, right? You know,
Right,
So, you know,
right.
Yep.
Are we adopting it or supporting it? How does that go? What do you want it to be National Neighbors Day?
yeah, well, just, we just
Neighbor
support it as,
Neighbor Appreciation Day.
yeah.
So I move to adopt April 19th as Neighbor Appreciation Day?
I'm questioning the
Adopt, I know, so.
What, support?
Yeah, I move to
Okay.
support April 19th as Neighbor Appreciation Day.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. So at least the select board's on the record as saying we support Neighbor Appreciation Day. I mean, that's a step in the right direction.
I appreciate that.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
And our minister, Reverend Harold Hinton, supports this too. He's been talking about it.
Excellent.
He'll be talking about it.
I will poke around a little bit farther to see how to make it, like, I'll just see what I can read up on it and find out about, just for future information.
Well, I appreciate your listening to me.
Thank you for that. No, that's a great story. Thank you for coming in. It's nice to hear of those types of positive initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you.
We did have, and this was handed at our last meeting, but we did have public comment at the last meeting, and I wanted to make sure that we read it. It's a handwritten letter dated April 3rd, 2023. It says, "Dear Chelsea Select Board, you are failing in your legal obligation to post minutes of public Select Board meetings. Please see 1 VSA 312B, Paren 2 states, minutes of all meetings shall be matters of public record, shall be kept by the clerk or secretary of the public body, and shall be available for inspection by any person and for purchase of copies at cost upon request after 5 calendar days from the date of any meeting. Meeting minutes shall be posted no later than 5 calendar days from the date of the meeting to a website, if one exists, that the public body maintains or has designated as the official website of the body. Except for draft minutes that have been substituted with updated minutes, posted minutes shall not be removed from the website sooner than 1 year from the date of the meeting for which the minutes were taken. 1 VSA 312 D, parentheses 1, at least 48 hours prior to a regular meeting and at least 24 hours prior to a special meeting, a meeting agenda shall be A, posted to a website if one exists that the public body maintains or designates as the official website of the body, and B, in the case of a municipal public body, posted in or near the municipal office and at least 2 other designated public places in the municipality. As of Monday evening, April 3rd, 2023, there were draft minutes from March 14th, 2023 posted to the Chelsea website, no minutes from March 21st or March 28th, no agenda for the April 4th meeting. Because your select board meetings are on Tuesday, the minutes really need to be posted on the Friday of the same week, 3 days, since posting minutes on the following Monday would be 6 calendar days. After being reminded of the legal requirements of posting minutes and agendas, one would hope the Chelsea Select Board immediately corrects the situation. Looking forward to seeing minutes posted in a timely manner. Mary Ann McCann, Chelsea citizen. And I guess I will thank Mary Ann for reminding us of that obligation, and we will, I know I'll speak for myself, except that we were behind on a couple of meeting minutes. I believe those have all since been posted, and I think that one meeting agenda was an oversight, and we will make sure that we do better moving forward.
Yep.
Are there any other public comments this evening? We did add to the agenda, and I think this one will be brief, is Brian Farnham is here to talk about a contract for the for mowing over at the school field, and Brian, if you wouldn't mind just joining us and giving us a brief update, or Tim, oh, not Tim, just Brian. Oh.
Here's pen back. Thanks.
So last several years we've mowed the Gould Field, which is over a school, for the baseball field, and Will Gilman. Each year I come and we have to sign a contract. I provided Gail with my insurance already, which is she has. Each year we ask the board, we agree on a 1-year contract. Last year I asked for a 2-year contract. The board said come back this year and we'll discuss it. Now there's a new board. I have the support of the board, the Robert Gould board, and I have a letter here supporting a 2-year contract for them. Yeah, other than that, it's all paperwork for Gail and myself to fill out. But I needed your okay to go do mow the lawn. So it's paid through the Robert Gould Field Association. It's not paid through the town. I submit the bill to the town. The town pays me first, and then they submit the bill to Will Gilman, and Will pays the town. So it's just money back and forth.
So you said that's you had a letter, Brian?
I do have a letter from Tim Carter here.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
I do have, in my past contract, I do have the amount of insurance that the league requires, the $1 million plus, so I have that. Yeah.
What was your thought about looking for the 2-year and not the 1 year?
Because we're here every year, and I'm wasting your guys' time with my time. I brought it up last year, and the comment I got from the board then was, this is a budgetary item, and I told them it's not a budgetary item. And they said, come back next year, we'll think about it.
So maybe what I can do is, maybe I'll just read the letter.
Yeah.
And Tim, and feel free to speak if you want to, or if you want me to, okay, cool. This says, to the Chelsea Select Board, the Roberts Gould Athletic Field located behind the Chelsea Public School is a town-owned property with which the Chelsea School Maintenance and Athletic Departments have traditionally maintained. With the establishment of the First Branch Unified School District, it became unclear whether the Chelsea School would continue to mow the ball field. In 2019, the Roberts Gould Athletic Field Fund arranged with the town of Chelsea to finance the mowing of the ball field. The Select Board signed a contract with Brian Farnham of Farnham Lawn Care for the 2019 mowing season and renewed the contract in 2020, 2021, and 2022. At the recommendation of the town treasurer, Farnham Lawn Care bills the town and the Robert Gould Athletic Fund then reimburses the town. The fund would like to continue this arrangement with the town of Chelsea and Farnham Lawn Care for the 2023 and 2024 mowing seasons. The Roberts Gould Athletic Field Fund was established in 2016 as a 501c(s) to provide maintenance, improvements, and support for the Roberts Gould Athletic Field, and is supported solely by donations and fundraising. The current members are Will Gilman, Chad Hewitt, Kevin Lund, Terry Libby, and Tim Carter. Respectfully, Tim Carter. So the request and the action needed by the board is to approve the contract, and there's a request for 2 years. So if there's not any more questions for Brian, I guess, is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2-year contract for Brian to mow out behind the school.
I second that
Is there a
motion.
second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sorry, I didn't vote. Aye. Okay. Okay, I think we're good, Brian. Do you need any signature?
Nope,
Okay,
that's all yours,
so we give this to Gail.
and that's yours.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yep, and we'll put this in the file.
Yep.
And it looks like,
All filled out.
okay. Yep, excellent. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
I'll put this back in Gail's folder. It looks like,
See, Billy, I'll give you another pen.
Oh, yeah.
thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think, no, I'll wait. That may need to be signed by Gail, not me, I'm not sure. Okay. Oh, next on the, did we didn't cover minutes yet, did we? I moved. Next on the agenda was approved minutes from March 25th and the April 4th meeting.
Those, but I realized Patty isn't gonna be here, so I don't know. I know you edited some of them as well.
Do you have, are we on March 25th?
Yes.
For both, yeah.
Okay. Can I easily capture them?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll hand them over.
So we have minutes, I believe. I know Kelly, you had some edits, Jesse has some edits. Are there any that we need to talk about, or mostly just corrections and
Yeah, I think it's mostly.
grammatical kind of things?
Mhm.
Is there, whoops, go ahead.
You look like an English teacher.
Well,
That's great. So there's a lot of, there's many just
Editorial?
punctuation.
Yeah, yeah.
and-
Editorial,
Yeah.
okay.
It doesn't look like anything's,
I think there's a couple things in the April 4th minutes
Yeah.
that could just be
Okay.
trimmed down.
so can we do these?
Let's do March
These
25th first.
with,
Yep. Is there a motion on the March 25th minutes?
I move to accept March 25th minutes with the edits from Kelly and Jesse.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Next is the April 4th minutes.
So these had significantly more edits. I feel like I can't see.
That's the one you looked at too, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had significantly more edits to the April 4th minutes. Trying to get to them.
I think the draft you sent out around 6 captured like everything.
Yes.
And
So-
mine, so I think we can go with those ones.
Yes, so we have a lot of grammatical and punctuation edits to them. There was some clarification on public comments, the letter that was written. We included the three points that were made. Those had been all lumped together into one. We separated them out so it's easier to read. And I wanted to mention an edit to Karen Lathrop brought forth using the town hall for a play. And I wanted to add in that we actually moved to waive the fee typically associated with the town hall. That wasn't in there. And we updated Matthew Durkee's request to, requested a permit to install a conduit and a water line from his well across the road to allow an overflow from the well to drain. Just made it clear. I tried to go through and edit them with the intention that 10 years from now, somebody would know what was happening.
Okay.
I added some last names. I added to, that Rick Ackerman is actually gonna go and review the work upon completion at Matthew Durkee's place after the work is done, so that the town will do some follow-up there. I clarified that the information provided on the Thorn Place, or the Thorn Road information, was actually Mr. Rice's opinion that he gave to us as to what was needed. The way the notes appeared was that somebody had made a decision that this is what needed to be done. So I just clarified that it was Mr. Rice that had decided that needed to be done. I think that is it. It's really just cleaning up language.
Is there a motion on the meeting minutes from March 4th? Sorry, April 4th?
I move to approve the minutes with edits for April 4th.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've passed the meeting minutes. So there's several members of the planning commission here. And I think Ed, Neil, and I'm sorry, Bob. Okay, great. Thank you for coming tonight on relatively short notice. We wanted to get together with as many folks on the planning commission as we could to have a conversation. Two Rivers was here several meetings ago and reminded us that our town plan is due to be revised this coming fall, I believe in November. And as we're all a new board, we started asking questions, and I actually called Neil and he says, yeah, we haven't met for quite a while. And so we came to realize that we don't actually think that there's a chair to the planning commission, and there hasn't been a planning commission meeting. And so we were interested in just kind of learning a little bit more from you. And, you know, one of the things we want to do is make sure that, you know, that of the folks that are on the list of planning commission members, we're clear who they are and who's still participating. And then maybe work with you to get a planning commission meeting scheduled, such that we can, and where needed, we're happy to help make sure that the roster of planning commission members are filled, and that we have a chair. Peter Gregory from Two Rivers has offered to come to that planning commission meeting to get things kind of back on track for us. Two Rivers has also offered to go through our town plan, our existing town plan, and identify and help us prioritize what parts of that would need to be updated. I believe the last town plan was 2015. It's been 5 years, okay, 2018. So, thank you for coming tonight. Just wanted to hear from you, get your thoughts and opinions. I will say that what we had for a list, we obviously realized that Dixon Corbett is no longer a resident of Chelsea, but we also had on the list of planning commission members, Kate Thomas, who actually had responded to my email and said she just wouldn't be able to be here tonight. Ed Cuban, Bob Brannon, Susan Harden, Neil Kennedy, and Justin Sauerwine are the members that at least we have on our list. Wanted to verify if those names sound familiar to the people that you think that are still on the planning commission.
They sound familiar. We really haven't done anything since the cell tower discussions.
Okay.
Which ended up going probably where it should have gone on the first try.
Sure. Right.
I have never been involved. Wasn't here for the first plan. I wasn't on the board for this last plan, and so I don't know exactly what goes into it. I've heard that it can take like 18 months to get it all wrapped up and everything, and we've got 8 or less. So a meeting probably would be good with Two Rivers. I do have a personal thing, I've mentioned it to Kelly, is that it's great that Two Rivers can do these, they do them for everybody. But I think that we need to get input from the community.
Sure.
There are issues out there that people might want to see addressed in our town plan. I'm relatively, I've been a property owner in Chelsea for about 15 years. So it makes me relatively new, and I would not want to impose my views on what I think Chelsea should be and write up a plan and step on everybody's toes.
Right. And I think that's something that when we do have a meeting with Peter Gregory, I think that's something we talk about, what that public engagement process would be, because I agree with you. I think that's an important part. Neil, Ed, anything? Neil, I think you were on the planning commission. I think I was on it with you when we drafted the last town plan.
A lot of that is pretty much boilerplate, and Two Rivers are a tremendous help in doing it. I don't think we can do it without them. So they can guide us through the changes and kind of work through the thing pretty much from front to back, I think, what you have to do. That's something we remember, Ed.
Yeah, it's about it. Yeah. Any big changes or, I doubt if there are any, but.
Yeah, I think Peter mentioned the night he was here, I think one of the things was, in the last 5 years, there's different state statutes that have been passed on what needs to be in a town plan, and that's the kind of,
That's what Two Rivers really do. They're right on top of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the statutory requirements are, so at least their framework would probably be worthwhile to keep the town in compliance with those things. And I don't know whether grants or any other state benefits are hinged on how you do your plan.
well, I'm not an expert by no means, so I'm not pretending to be, but there are different, say, grant programs and things. If you don't have a current town plan, and there's components that you have to have in your town plan to be eligible for grants and some other different things, Neil, you probably have a better handle on it than I do, but.
Pretty much. Okay. A lot of things you can't qualify if you don't have your town plan up to date.
Right. So I think it's just making sure that we kind of get back on track, and do that. And so we appreciate you coming in tonight. I believe planning commission meetings used to be on Monday nights, is that correct?
Yeah, Thursdays.
Thursdays, okay.
once a month.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we need to, and I guess I'll pause and see if anybody else from the board has anything they wanna.
Sounds like we need to set a date for a meeting.
Right, yep. So that's what, you know, I thought maybe tonight, at least with the members that were here, maybe we could say, okay, you know, maybe, and we'll have to check in with Peter Gregory, but, you know, maybe we pick a night, maybe it's, you know, I mean, we're into April already. You know, maybe a few weeks out on typically the planning commission meetings were on Thursday nights, we can just try to hold one then, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We probably will have to meet more than once a month if we get into that plan thing.
Right, right, yeah. But to just get things kicked back off, or just, and I've talked with Peter on a few other things. I'm happy to, unless somebody else wants to, just coordinate a Thursday night and just let folks know, or do you wanna, you know, maybe April 27th or May 4th, just to give him a little bit of notice?
I was thinking the 27th.
Okay. Right.
So we'll do April 27th.
27.
April 20, well, we'll say April 27th or May 4th, and then we can ask Peter what.
And the idea is to have him come and then the select board and us all meet together?
Yeah, I think what we might do is just 2 members of the select board, so it doesn't have to be a Warren select board meeting kind of thing, unless I'll defer to the other. I think Billy and I might be the liaisons to the planning commission, if I remember right.
You might be right.
Does the Vermont Sunshine Law allow 2 guys, two members to meet without
Yes,
having?
without it being public, right,
Okay,
yep.
instead of just one?
Right, as long as there's not a quorum,
Okay.
so.
What time are we gonna?
What time did the
Yeah.
6?
We used to be able to meet about 7.
Okay. So what I can do, if you want me to, or if somebody else wants to, that's okay, but I could reach out to Peter and just confirm with him, and then I'll send an email out to everybody. One thing that would be great, just to make sure, is if folks could just respond and say, hey, I got this, just so I know for sure that I've got people's email addresses right and that kind of thing, so.
Question, do we have everyone's email address?
I believe at this point,
Don't know if anyone here would have
I believe at this point, I have everybody's email address. I just need to confirm, I'll need to confirm, I mean, I sent Susan an email based on an email address that Karen had provided to me. Unfortunately, I didn't get it until over the weekend, so, and then I'll just confirm, and I can confirm with Justin, just to make sure that I have his accurate email address. So it would appear that we have, as a minimum, 1 vacancy on the planning commission. Is there a preference from planning commission members if we, the select board, or you reach out, and just, you know, we'll put it out there that if folks are interested in the planning commission, that they let the select board know so we can appoint somebody? Is that, how would you like to do that as planning commission members? I haven't done this before, we haven't done this before, so.
I know I got on it because a former member asked me to be on it, and then he left, and then I guess presented it to the to the select board, and
Sure.
I found out I was on it, so.
Right.
You know, pretty close. So,
Maybe you could just post something for people that are interested, so, you know, you could go around quite a long time if you start picking up people and then come back and tell you they don't want it, so, you know, post it, get your candidates and.
Okay.
And basically, doing the town plan is the biggest thing we do as the board. I mean, we didn't do anything.
Right.
Or that and the cell tower.
Right.
For the whole time I was on it.
Right, well, and I think zoning regulations as well fall to the planning commission, if I recall.
I guess technically it does, but we don't do much with the zoning.
Yeah, we have to, you know, if somebody wants to do something, our whole thing is, we can say, it complies.
Right.
Or it doesn't
Right.
comply.
Zoning
We can't say no.
administrator,
You say no.
Right.
Zoning administrator approves a lot of them. Do we even have one now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Or and the DRB does the ones in the area.
in the district, right. I seem to recall that the planning commission is the one responsible for drafting the zoning regulations, I believe. I remember, Neil, we did the floodplain zoning regulation as an example, I think. But that's something we can look into.
Do we want to make a plan to have somebody maybe put it on our community page and front post for?
Yeah, I think we should ask Patty to post that there's a planning commission, at least one planning commission opening, and that the select board is taking, I don't know if there's applications, but nominations, we're seeking interest, so.
You got a pulse and you want to be on it.
Right, right. The qualifications aren't stringent, yeah. Yeah, I think we should get that word out there, because it would be really nice knowing that there's at least one vacancy, and again, the three of you are still interested in continuing, I'm hopeful. So we'll just check with everybody else and make sure, that there is only one. But if we were able to, maybe we could even get somebody at least lined up, maybe not officially appointed before that first planning commission meeting, so that they could hear what Two Rivers has to offer as well. Excellent. Is there anything else on planning commission? Is there anything that you gentlemen want to offer tonight, planning commission related wise, or anything from the board? Oh, I'll say that, I'll speak for myself. I was shocked when I learned, oh no, we have a town plan due in a few months, and we don't have a current active planning commission. So thank you for being willing to continue. So
Thank you for coming on short notice.
and thank you for coming on short notice. We appreciate that. So excellent. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And feel free to stay if
My
you want.
neighbors were here.
Yeah. And feel free to stay if you want to hear all the other good stuff we got.
Thanks, Bob. I was on the dirt planning commission when we did the very first top line.
Oh, really?
And that was, we didn't have Two Rivers then.
A few years ago, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a step in the right direction. Casey, do you mind joining us? Next on the agenda is grants. And I need to make the board aware and apologize to everybody. There was a pre-bid meeting for the sidewalk this afternoon that I didn't attend. And it was at 2:00, and Casey reminded me when I called her at 4:30 that there was a pre-bid meeting at 2, and I forgot. So there was.
So I kind of ran that meeting
Yeah.
because I was the contact person on the
Yeah.
bid proposal, so luckily I was home.
So thank you, Casey, for that. And there was one contractor that
There
showed
was
up, I
one?
understand. I've
Yeah.
reached out to them to apologize.
Okay.
And we'll follow up with them. I think the bids are due
May 2.
May 2nd, on the sidewalk grant. We've talked a little bit as a board. There's an interesting situation. I'm actually hoping to talk with the contractor that showed up today, to get kind of their thoughts on what they saw. At one of our board meetings, we've learned that this kind of came together quickly, the application for the sidewalk grant last fall. At one of our meetings, as Rick said, was, hey, this isn't the worst section of sidewalk we have, but we picked somewhere to start from, and I'm paraphrasing, I might not get his words perfectly. I did talk with one of the neighbors who said, and again, paraphrasing, geez, you're replacing the sidewalk in front of our house? It's not really that bad. I myself have walked up and down the sidewalk in the village and would agree it may not be the worst section of sidewalk. But here we are. And I think we kind of have a decision as a board, whether or not we want to move forward with the project as it is. I have asked a few questions and none of it 100% definitive, but, you know, the funding for this is a 50-50 matching grant. 50% comes from VTrans, 50% is local funding. I believe that if we decided to kind of hit pause and think about this, we wouldn't lose the money. And I've talked with Rita Sato at Two Rivers about that a little bit as well, just saying, hey, she actually helped, I think, put the grant together, and it came together real quick last fall. And again, I'm not judging how we got here. I'm just saying, I think we just, as a board, you know, I'm not sure if others have had a chance to look at the sidewalk, but it definitely isn't. But, you know, to Rick's point, Lane and I met with Rick here a week or so ago on a Friday, and to his point, it's a very heavily traveled section of sidewalk. The current sidewalk up through there is only 4 feet wide, which isn't the current ADA standards, which would be a 5-foot sidewalk. And, you know, I think, and Lena, you can tell me, you know, Rick kind of said, hey, we have to start somewhere. So I just thought it would be good that we as a board have a conversation about it. And I just want to make sure that, in fairness to any potential contractor, that, you know, if they're going to go to the work to put in a bid, that we, the board, have kind of talked about it and thought it through. It's April 11th, bids are due May 2nd. Anyway, I'll pause there. Elena, you were part of the conversation with Rick. If you have anything you wanted to add.
Not really, that pretty much covers it all. It's just, I mean, I guess if there's potential to put it on hold, I mean, I feel like we're almost late in the process, but is it worth replacing a piece of sidewalk that may not be our worst place? Like, are there other sections that maybe we should look at and refocus our attention elsewhere?
Does the grant allow us to change the location designated?
We would have to request to do it. There is, I believe it's one of those Title 19, Section 1111 permits that VTrans has issued for work in the highway right away. For that section, we'd have to get another permit. I'm not sure. There may be another clearance or two that probably wouldn't be real difficult to get, but we do have the clearances lined up to do the work in the location that is currently planned.
Do you have any sort of time frame if we decided to replace a different section, as far as when that would be able to be done?
I don't.
Would you, yeah, okay.
I don't.
I think, but I'm not, and my document stopped loading. I think we have technically until December 31st, 2024
I believe that's right.
to use this grant.
Yes.
And it would really just be a matter of writing a letter or filling out a form and getting another 1111 permit if we wanted to change the section of sidewalk that we want to work on.
I guess, what is the potential for replacing more sidewalk in the future?
It's, you know, the funding is there. I can speak that a little bit just because I'm aware of it through VTrans, but you know, the funding is there on an annual basis that municipalities can apply for this program. And there's no guarantee that we'd get one next year or the year after, or even the year after that, but the funding is usually there. The funding's appropriated by the legislature, but for quite a few years now, this program has existed.
How much is the grant for? So what is our
Match, I don't remember.
Our match is $29,000.
Right.
I think it's
58,000 total.
50, yeah. Yeah.
So the grant from the state is for 58,000?
So it's, the total project
project
is 58,000,
you.
29, and these are round numbers,
They're round- they're
29,000
round number. I can get you
state,
exact numbers if you need me to, Kelly.
Right.
29,000 state and 29,000
Right.
local.
No, that's kind of what I was looking, so 50.
I guess I feel like we do have to start somewhere, but if there's the potential for us not to get more funding to replace the worst sections within a reasonable amount of time, I think maybe we should think about fixing those sections now and then, you know, kind of go from there.
I think we're looking at, so 29 $29,000. So do we want to spend $29,000 now to fix the sidewalks that are not our biggest priority? Is that fair to simplify it that way?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, like.
And I think that's where we are in needing to make a decision of,
One, I guess, I mean, we're not tearing up like good sidewalk. There's issues with it. There's just not as big an issue as other areas, right? Okay.
it was low as well, right? If I remember right.
There's sections where the water does sit in it,
Yeah.
yes.
I
Yep.
think that was the biggest issue, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Right,
and-
I think that that's why that site
Section
got
got
chosen is, I don't even walk on the sidewalk. I walk on the other side of the street when I walk down Main Street. Because the puddles, when there are puddles, are deep enough, you're walking in the road anyway, so I may as well just walk across the street. So I think that that's why that section got chosen, but I also don't know that that's necessarily the worst section of sidewalk.
I think Rick mentioned that the sidewalk on the south end also is low and has,
Right.
Yeah, he mentioned
Cool.
down towards Joe Spinelli's house is where he mentioned
Yeah.
specifically.
with,
That section of sidewalk is very narrow.
yeah.
But I think this is probably, they're probably thinking of the foot traffic, I'm
Well,
assuming, is why they.
Right.
Right.
And Rick did say that when we met him at the garage that day, it was just that there's a lot more people that walk on this
Right.
section.
Right.
I
So-
guess, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was just, one thing that I think about is during the winter, all these low spots that have water in them and are freezing, there's a potential for some sort of slip and fall
Yeah.
type injury, I guess, is what I was thinking as far
Rick
as that
did say
goes.
you had to bring some buckets of sand up there.
Up there, that's right.
In the
Yep.
winter to make sure they were sanded so that they weren't an issue. but-
Especially within the section being
Yeah.
talked
I mean, I'm
about.
assuming that if somebody falls on the sidewalk and gets hurt, are we responsible for that, or?
I wouldn't dare give you
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah.
So one thing, just in this discussion that came to mind, because I don't know if everybody's had a chance to just kind of look at the sidewalk or walk the sidewalk, is today's April 11th. If we were serious about thinking about pausing, I'd be happy to have the conversations just to make sure we know what the ramifications of that are. To make sure that it is December 23rd, 2024. Casey and I can work on that, but I could have those conversations. I could have the conversation and just make sure that we knew for sure what, if it's 40 hours worth of work to do permitting, well, maybe it's different than, no, you just need to call the maintenance district and they'll look at a different area. So if folks wanted, maybe what we could do is give everybody a chance to kind of look at the sidewalk in the village. And we could make a firm decision next week, and I'm happy to let the one contractor that showed up know that this is what we're thinking, and we're gonna decide definitively next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Does that sound like a okay? Kelly, I know you're really focused on doing minutes, so I'm just making sure that we give you a chance to weigh in.
Yes, that sounds good.
We'll put it on the agenda, we'll just make a
Yeah.
definitive decision next week, whether we're gonna move forward or delay, but I'll find out more information and know that it's factual.
So the board, on their own time, is going to go check out the sidewalk so that they can come back with an informed decision?
Yep. Yep, and I will confirm what the process would be for us to.
Or even if it's a possibility?
Right, I can say pretty confidently it's a possibility, but we should know the risks associated with that before we.
Yeah.
Do you want to contact Rita if you want me to?
I've already talked to her, I'm happy to, Casey, unless you want to.
Either way, I just, there's no reason for both of us to talk to Rita, just,
Yeah. I don't mind, I'm actually gonna talk to John Lemieux.
Oh, okay.
At VTrans,
All
is who
right.
I'll probably.
That's fine.
And I'll confirm with Rita,
Okay.
but. I had a conversation with somebody that works in John's group that said, hey, what about this? But it was a real quick conversation. I just want to follow up.
Right, okay.
Next on the agenda was the pump station grant.
Yeah. So, I talked to Mark Spinelli at EPA this morning, and, so the next thing that we need to do, where is it? The next thing we need to do is the environmental review report, and he was supposed to send me some material. I just now sent him another email, so hopefully tomorrow I'll have some, it's more concrete. But, so we have to have an environmental review report. There's a form. A lot of it is just a formality because it's an existing structure. So we don't have to worry about, are we on tribal land? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? We already know we're not doing those things. They just have to kind of be checked off. So generally speaking, an engineering company like Otter Creek would be doing that for us. The question, and the reason I talked to Mark this morning, was to make sure, so if we're gonna use federal money to pay for the engineering, for the report, we have to put it out to bid. So I just wanted you guys to be clear how we're gonna pay for that before we got in too far and then we were already in trouble. So, I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, we can have Otter Creek do it. Some of the questions may be easy enough that you or I could do it. I haven't seen it. I was hoping he would send that to me today, but.
So go ahead.
Do we have any sort of cost associated with this to perform this?
So I believe, based on the conversation I had with Casey earlier, I believe that because this is federal funds, it's called a NEPA document, the National Environmental Protection Act. That if you're using federal funds, you have to do an evaluation, and you kind of go through a whole bunch of environmental criteria and make sure that the project that we're proposing doesn't have any impacts to, you know, to what Casey said. It could be historic, it could be tribal lands, it could be wetlands. There's a bunch of threatened and endangered species. There's a bunch of things in there. I believe it's probably pretty straightforward, but my experience is with NEPA is with transportation, but I'm assuming it probably applies pretty consistently across the board until we get from the EPA exactly what they're asking for. I think it's hard to say that, you know, what it would cost. As I was talking with Casey today, I mean, if it's what I think it is, it's basically a checklist and a bunch of questions that just have to be answered. And if there's no further detailed evaluation, I'm guessing it might be a couple $1,000s. But that's a really rough guess. So I think we have to wait and see what they give us. And like Casey and I were talking, I mean, there's parts of it that we might even be able to fill out ourselves. There are parts of it that we may not be able to.
Right, yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? It has to go out to bid?
Only if we're gonna pay that, say it's 2,000.
If-
Just for the sake of the argument. But if we're gonna use federal money to pay that $2,000, it would have to go out to bid. But if we have funds.
Regardless if it was $500.
Right.
That's the federal procurement piece, I think.
That's the federal rule. It's. Yeah. It's one of the reasons small towns don't like to take federal money, because it is it's a pain. Because nobody's gonna bid on something that small. I mean, we haven't gotten any bids for the sidewalk grant. I mean, getting bids, especially in Orange County, it's terrible.
So, Casey, just to be clear, that's the next step in our process.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we need to get this NEPA evaluation, this environmental review signed off and submitted.
Yes.
And then that opens the door for us to apply.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So
That's what I'm understanding, yeah.
So we need to do that. So I think we're in a place where we're waiting to hear and make sure we're clear on what we need to do from the EPA. Once we get that, you know, and I'm happy Casey and you and I can talk about it and then come back to the board and say, hey, this is the suggested path forward. Depending on what it is and depending on what we think the order of magnitude is something we could ask Robert Clark from Otter Creek, hey,
Right.
this is what we've got to do, what would you estimate this would take? You know, just to get an idea.
Right.
If they could help us, not saying we would necessarily go with them if it's over a certain threshold with our purchasing policy, we would, even by our own policy, we'd have to put it out to bid, but.
Right.
But I think that's where we stand.
So you two are gonna meet, I just wanna make sure I
Yeah.
capture.
Well,
you-
yeah, once Casey gets the thing, she's gonna send it to
And if I
me.
don't get an email from him tomorrow, I will just call him first thing on Thursday. I have his number, so.
And I think we'll just put this on the agenda to update depending on where we are next week.
And can you go back and tell me, right at the very start of your conversation, you mentioned the environmental something, and you referred to it as EPA, maybe?
Well, it's, I believe what it is NEPA, which is,
NEPA,
it's the National Environmental Protection Act.
thank you.
I think that's,
I think that's what I.
right. We think.
He did not,
that's what-
use those words on the phone, Mark
Kevin
didn't,
said
but, yeah.
the environmental protection.
Based on our conversation, I think that's what we both think it
We
is.
think that that's what it is, yeah.
Maybe I'll take that part out.
So that'll be an action item for Casey and I, if everybody's good with that. Okay. Next on the agenda was VTrans grants, the bridge grant application.
Right.
I know there's some flexibility on that, but, they asked for them by April 15th, I think.
Yes.
We've talked about, at previous meetings, maybe putting in an application for the Maple Avenue Bridge to do the engineering for that.
Yeah.
And really, I've had a few conversations, since then about the idea of us putting in the application for the engineering. We would have to get bids from engineers. The idea would be that we would be hiring them to do, some public outreach, to do some initial engineering, look at options. I think we have as a minimum, there's a water line on that bridge. Just what does that bridge look like? Do the hydraulics associated with it, it's within the floodplain, the bridge might be longer, the bridge should be wider than it is, but have them do all of that work. But what I would recommend is we have them do that and follow all the federal requirements, just like we just talked about, with the idea being as we get the engineering to a certain point, it's not, I can say that it's not something that will probably end up being built through the normal VTrans process for the next 5, 6, 7 years at the very earliest, and probably longer than that. But if we got all the engineering done, there's different grant programs out there that we're all seeing in different places. We would have a project where we could say, and the term that's sometimes used is shovel ready, we'd have a project where we could say, hey, it's shovel ready, we're pretty much ready, we have our permits, we know what it is, it's engineered. We may not, but we may be fortunate enough to find funding elsewhere that would help us get that bridge done sooner.
Yep.
So, back to the question I asked you earlier. Can we apply for a paving grant and a structures grant in the same year?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm still gonna need, so we have this magic piece of paper here. So this is our annual financial plan?
Yes.
Which I have all of the relevant, I have the formula. I can fill this out in like 5 minutes. If I have the number of what those 2 grants will be.
What
And
we're applying for?
Yeah, and we're still waiting on Blacktop, I think, because
So-
Rick has not gotten back to me.
So let's take these, so one is the existing grant that we have. So we have an,
Grant is, we're not applying for it, it's existing. Okay, all right.
right, so we have an existing grant, I believe it's 175,000, we can confirm with Gail or Rick, that number.
Okay.
That's I believe the existing grant for the East Randolph Road, so we do have that for sure.
Oh, okay. I thought I was, okay. I can wait, if you wanna make sure that that's correct, and like email me tomorrow, I can wait.
I can find out that number.
Okay.
Yeah, and-
Because I don't want this piece of paper to be wrong.
right, so Casey, I guess I would ask, do you mind just reaching out to Gail?
Yeah,
Because
you can
Gail
eliminate- Gail will
will
know.
have what the
Oh,
funding
see,
is, so.
and- Okay, I talked to Gail, maybe she misunderstood what I asked her for.
Okay.
She must have.
For
I
the
must-
existing grant, or if you find out from Rick, either way, but.
Okay, all right.
It's the existing grant that we already have.
Okay, but then I would also need a number, what are you gonna ask for, do you know?
So,
How much you're gonna ask for the bridge grant?
so for the bridge grant, I've kind of gone back and forth, but to do it and go through the full process, and this is probably more than we would need, but I think we should request $150,000 for all the engineering and permitting for it. There is a 20% match on it, and I'm assuming we probably won't need it, but I'd rather have it and not need it
Yeah.
than,
The other way.
than have it be the other way around.
So I guess I have one question. So we get all of the engineering done, but we have no money guaranteed to actually do it. How long is that engineering good for? How many years does it give us to get the money to do it? Is it?
The only thing that we would have to do is we might have to do a permit reevaluation at some point. This NEPA permit we talked about,
Yeah, okay.
don't quote me, but I forget if it's 3 years or 5 years, you'd have to do a reevaluation of it, which is most likely like, hey, everything's still the same, and get that approved.
But you said it was gonna be 6 to 7 years out before a VTrans
Well,
one would be available?
I can't. So VTrans has a capital program, large-scale bridges like the ones that were done here. And I can say, just based on my day job, that it would be a number of years before that would be a project that could actually be built. VTrans takes projects in on a cycle into the capital program based on the available funding projected. And I would say it's probably out to 2028 or 2029 is full. There's no new projects coming in. So it would be at least that before we could get a project through the VTrans capital program. But there's other programs out there, resiliency, flood resiliency, which is an issue here that we might, and I'm just making the suggestion, I don't know, that we could get funding through another program. Worst case scenario is we have a project ready and it gets taken into the VTrans system and we have to wait in the queue and it's 6, 7, 8, 9 years before it gets built, but we're ready.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that, the engineering would still be, the money would still be well spent if we did it that far out from when we might actually get the rest of the money to do it.
I think Chris did, sorry, I think when Chris Bump came, he actually suggested that, didn't he make a kind of a suggestion that we do that? Or suggested that was a way to do it and be ready to roll when something came available?
Yeah, Chris and I talked about it.
Yeah, he said it was a good idea. I guess I just wanted to make sure that if it's 7 years out, that it's still gonna be up to where it needs to, the engineering needs to be where it's, or if we're gonna have to go back and
Yeah,
spend more money later to update it in any way.
go ahead.
If we didn't do it this way, would the town be responsible for the engineering and permitting if it went into the VTrans system?
What we would do is we would wait a couple of cycles before it came in. And the town would be, in that case, if it comes into the normal VTrans capital program, there's a 10% match. So we would be paying 10%, we'd be paying 10% more on this grant. But the other thing so there's a risk, there's absolutely a risk. I can say, based on my experience at VTrans, there's not a significant risk that engineering is gonna, the bridge design is the bridge design, the permitting, there might be a little bit, there may be some things that changed on a standard in that time, but probably the risk, the risk is minimal. The other side of that equation is something happens to that bridge 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road. And we have, right.
That far ahead.
The bridge railing gets bumped and falls into the river or something, there's that risk as well, and then we'd be forced to do something. I think I'm suggesting this as a proactive approach. We don't have to do it. It's just, I've seen communities in other parts of the state do something like this and kind of be proactive, and it shows that you're committed, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if it potentially could be that many years out, that the engineering would still be good.
It's a
so.
good question, Dana, and there is some risk, I would say, is probably
But it's minimal,
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess the question is, does the board agree with that approach for the bridge grant? And if so, are you comfortable? I'll work with Casey and we'll get that submitted.
Absolutely.
There was I'm sorry, go ahead. Do we need a motion? Maybe we should, yeah, we should make a motion on it. I wish Karen was here, because it's kind of putting us in a financial, yeah. Is there a motion?
I move to approve Kevin and Casey moving forward with the bridge grant application.
Is there a second?
Maple Ave.
On Maple Avenue?
On Maple Avenue.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask one thing? The sidewalk, so there was the walkthrough today,
Yes,
Yes.
today too.
and are we still accepting bids at the moment, or?
I'm gonna get in touch with the one contractor.
I just had another one
Oh, okay.
send me a message.
Okay, so,
I was,
yeah, that's fine. I think what we say is what we should tell them is, as of now, yes, we are, but we're gonna make a decision at next week's meeting as to whether or not we're gonna pause on the project or we're gonna move forward with it.
if not, when are they due?
May 2nd, correct, Casey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what I wrote down right there.
Well, that's good that we have interest. The one thing, Lynn, and we should follow up with Rick on this, is the paving grant application. And I believe at one point Rick said, and Chris Bump may have said this when he was here, it doesn't hurt to apply every year. And so we'll move forward with the bridge grant application, but if you wouldn't mind just checking with Rick, because I think Rick said, hey, we should probably apply for one. And if he thinks we should, where and how much?
So he mentioned something about it today, and I think it was, can't think of the road right now. Headed out the other end of town. Village? Yeah, Upper Village.
Oh, on Upper Village Road, okay. Yep.
But I'll get more information on that.
Okay, yeah, and that's something we'll just, if somebody doesn't mind keeping track of agenda items, for next week.
If you give me just a second, I will add them at the end, future agendas.
Oh, okay.
So what are we at?
Well, the sidewalk grant is for next week. The pump station grant is for next week.
We gotta go slower though.
Sorry.
Sidewalk grant, pump station grant. Okay,
And then future paving grant. I think those are the only things we've said should be on the agenda for next week,
I think
right?
so.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Casey. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for pinch hitting real quickly for me today.
No problem. So, number 10, it says website update. I'm still working on it. Jess and I looked at it a little. Karen and I looked at it a little. And I'm just uploading stuff and working with Thor to make things look nice and neat. And we've done some pretty nifty things. When you see it again next week, hopefully, I'll be able to actually show you guys what it's gonna look like.
And I'm trying to get Thor to allow me to have access the way that Casey does. I haven't heard back from him yet, but
Okay.
hopefully we can do that. And then Casey also transferred all of the files from our existing website onto the Google Drive so that they're in the cloud and safe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you guys, it's in your folder, so you guys can go find whatever you need in there. That was Jesse's brilliant idea.
Awesome.
And it works even better because on my cloud drive now, once I upload a thing, I can just delete it because I know that it lives somewhere else in case I've lost it. So, yeah.
All documents on the website have been loaded, have been uploaded.
Yes.
Into the Google Drive.
Google Drive.
We all have access to.
Yeah, I just had a question on that. Have you gone through and looked at sort of the common use cases that you're trying to address and make sure that, you know, the top things that people are going to the website looking for, trying to contribute to, that those are the smoothest
Yes.
workflows?
So just now, while he was talking about the missing meeting minutes,
Yeah.
I went on the old site. I couldn't find them.
Yeah.
I had to search for them, like in the search box. I
But
had
you
to
did
search.
find them?
I did eventually find them. They are there. I don't know where they are. I had to put 2023 in the search box to find them. But that's my major, Jesse and I and Karen and I are working really hard to make sure that when you go on there, what you're looking for is really easy to find.
Yeah, it is currently difficult, and you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot if you have access to the search history of what other people are searching for.
Right.
You can tell a lot. And,
Yes.
yeah.
Do we have access to the search history on our existing website?
I don't know.
I thought, I'm guessing, completely guessing, but I do know that Karen had talked to me about the report that she gets. You can actually identify all.
Oh, that's right, because in one meeting there was like 48,000 hits to some weird thing or something.
56,000 page views. And I'm looking at that number and you're going, no way. And I'm going, maybe. You know why? Because I look at 10 pages to find the one thing that I'm looking for.
Right. So you have, obviously, is that why you're here tonight? We're glad.
I'm here in general.
Okay, cool, but it sounds like you have some knowledge, so please.
Yeah, so the reason I was asking is because I've seen a lot of websites that fail miserably because the designer designs it for themselves.
Right.
And doesn't understand the personas that are actually visiting the site.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that we're actually thinking about this in terms
Yes.
of like, what is a typical citizen looking for in
Yes.
terms of, meeting agendas, meeting minutes, town notices, you know,
Right.
contact people, right, those sorts
Contact
of things.
should be- yes.
All of which I've looked for at different times and struggled to find.
Right.
as we
I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible, and I'm also looking at other town websites to see what they're putting up first and how they have it arranged, so that it's intuitive. So I'm trying.
Yeah. So
And when it gets up there, if you've got feedback, let us know.
Sure.
Well, and maybe we could say right now, because the camera's on as well, if there are particular things that people that are watching, to your point, that people feel are most important to be prominent on our website,
Yeah.
please email Patty, our administrative assistant, so that those, Patty could collate those and work with Jess and Casey on making sure that those are out there. So for folks that are watching, if there's certain things that you feel are most important to be prominent on our website, please let us know. I also believe I saw an email from Karen that our current web provider has said that they're not gonna turn our website off, which is very much appreciated, until after we have a new site up and running. So while our existing site isn't perfect, it's better than not having one at all, so.
Right.
Great.
Okay. Is that
Is it,
all the website questions?
Jess, anything you wanted to add on that, or?
We both know how to use it now. I just need access to it, and then I think you were gonna loop Karen in as well.
So I met with Karen a couple days ago. She loves it. She loves what we've done so far.
Okay.
She made a couple of really good suggestions so that some of the contacts come straight up on that homepage, and yeah, just
And I
the
think-
important stuff that needs to be on the front, so.
Our goal is to have like a preview for you guys to see before the new website went live, which would be
Hopefully next Tuesday, if I
The
can.
18th,
if
yeah.
I can get long enough to sit there and upload the stuff, but yes.
I think that would be great. It would be great to see what it was. And I guess, and I think we talked about just making sure that we're keeping Patty in the loop on this as well, because we want to make sure she knows how to use it, how to modify it as we move forward. So, excellent.
So we are adding website review to our next agenda?
Yeah.
Oh,
And what is the best way to do that? Do we think,
we,
to show
there's
you?
a projector and a
There
screen.
is?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll just have to remember to
So-
get here and get it set up.
Okay.
Is next week the week we're doing the Thorn Place
No.
visit?
No, that's the second.
And when we get there, we should
Right.
talk about that as well. Casey, while you're here, there is a use of the village green request. And so this came in, it just came in this evening, but I think we're safe to, I should have added it up above, but if there's no objections, we'll add it now. The use of a village green request from the Chelsea Public Library, representative is Casey. A plant swap on May
Right.
28th.
Yeah, so it'll be Memorial Day weekend for 3 weeks after. All I want to do is put a pallet out here under the tree. I don't know if any of you were familiar with what I did last fall. Did the same thing. I put a pallet out here under the tree so that folks who are digging and dividing in their gardens, instead of throwing those extras in their compost pile, they bring them down here and stick them on the pallet, and then people who want them come and get them. It was extremely successful. It was fabulous. And Veronica asked me if I would do it again, and, you know, my husband and I tried to figure out what dates would probably work best, and, you know, I make sure that everything stays watered and neat. I come almost every day to make sure that there's not plants everywhere, and everything stays right on the pallet. People were great about that, so, yeah.
Sounds very cool.
Okay.
I'm gonna probably stop twice a day. It's your probably birthday
Awesome.
as well, so.
Okay, good.
Is there a motion on,
I have clarification there.
Okay.
It's Memorial Day and.
oh,
three-
May 28th through June 19th
Thank
is
you.
what the dates
Yeah.
are on here. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much for doing this, Kelly.
Keeping us all honest.
Yeah. So is there a motion on this use of the village green request?
I move to accept the plants, use of the village green for the plant swap on May 28th through June 19th.
And
I second that.
then it's been seconded. I'll just add for clarification, just so that we're all clear. It's actually, it'll be on the lawn right here on the town hall south lawn.
Oh, it's-
Just so
okay,
that we're
sorry.
clear, it doesn't affect the motion. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, I'll put this back in the packet. Dale's. Thank you very much, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank
you.
Thank you the 7th time for bailing me out today. I appreciate it.
That's okay.
Was I supposed to go to that?
Well, it was.
No, I think it was-
It was gonna be, originally, we said, this was before we did liaisons, it was gonna be Rick and myself, and, so, yeah, definitely you should have. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally
Well,
kidding.
after I was like, I kind of felt like maybe I should.
No,
I didn't remember having.
it was
to,
just-
like.
It was just one of those coordination things, it's, and I should, I should have been in Casey saved me, so thank you.
I was just feeling a little guilty, like I kind of feel like I should have maybe been there.
It's a local contractor that was there, and I have reached out, and I'll follow up and make sure that. Next on the agenda, Mowing-Contract.
Okay, so with Gail's help, we did get the bid, the pre-bid into the paper today. I do want to come up with an updated list just to put on the website, but I was a little worried where the website was when I put that in the thing, saying that if they wanted like a full list, and I do have to just confirm with Rick on some of the locations for a more solid, because he listed them, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know where they are, a couple of them, for just a more accurate. And then I think it was the 21st that we have a date to do pre-bid to show everybody that's interested the locations. And then the following, May 1st, bids have to be in so that on the agenda for May 2nd, we can review bids.
Can I just clarify, there's a pre-bid meeting on what day?
April 21st.
And so you've got the ad in the paper, the request for proposals.
Yeah.
And I saw it look great. It's just
It's
basically,
short and sweet,
it's
just-
kind of short and sweet that says Heathfield Commons and other
Tennis
areas of the
courts,
town.
town
Right.
hall, and other various town properties,
Right.
just because I figured it was too hard to try to explain like all of them.
Yeah, we need a full page ad.
Right. So I was trying to keep it like short, sweet, and to the point. So it's gonna run for 1 week.
So our May 2nd, we need to add to the agenda.
Agenda to go through the sealed bids for the mowing contracts. And fingers crossed, there's a lot of mowing, doesn't have to happen or anything before then.
Right. And I think as Lena and I talked today, that just means that we'll all have to pick a place that we want to mow for that week or two until we get folks on board.
But something that like came up that I didn't, like spring cleanup. The highway department does all that, like branches and leaves and all of that.
What did Rick say? I believe that's how it's happened in the
Yeah,
past.
he said that he has, done some of
Okay.
that in the past. But, I mean, on the bid.
Public comment that we.
What's that, I'm sorry?
That's another public comment we should add to next week's
About
agenda.
the branch out back of the.
Oh,
old
I
town
didn't get a
garage.
chance to read it. I think, yeah.
So that would be a public comment that I would not need to add to the agenda because it would go under public comment.
Right, next week, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so, do you have all the dates for the mowing, Kelly?
I think so. I
Okay.
have May.
Is there anything else we have to do to prepare for that I'm unaware of? For the mowing bids, we just, okay.
No, and the time for the pre-bid is in the ad, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, so, what time is it, just so that if there's people watching?
9 o'clock
At 9 AM.
on the 21st.
And that's something that you and Rick will,
Yep, I've already spoken to Rick and he confirmed it, and then,
Okay.
Where do you meet?
oh yeah, we didn't have a location to meet, that would be something that we would have to.
Let's come up with one right now.
meet at the town, meet here at the town hall?
Yeah,
or-
meet at the town hall.
Or maybe the Heathfield would be easier?
Yeah.
Meet
Or
at the
town
Heathfield.
garage.
Right, but we're not doing
We're
anything down
not.
there, so.
Rick's gonna mow that, so they don't have to mow there.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Good call.
So meet at
guess
the
it prob-
Heathfield.
yeah.
Meet at the Heathfield. I wonder if we can get an edit into the Herald. Probably not for that.
Well, but we can get the word out. I mean,
We're gonna put it on the website and we'll put it
right.
on Front Porch Forum and those, so.
The good news is I heard that there's of at least one mowing contractor that's interested, and hopefully there might be more, so.
Great.
I was just happy to hear that it's later than we wanted to be, that there was somebody that was at least one person.
And we won't be mowing it also.
So where, Heathfield, is that what we're?
Yeah,
agreed
Heathfield.
on?
Okay, anything else on the mowing contract?
No.
Thank you, Lena. That was, getting that in today's paper was an accomplishment, so thank you.
But we did it.
Next on the agenda, Highway Department, general updates. I don't know if there's anything, Lena, that you've heard from Rick in terms of general updates.
He's called and he's waiting for a date to get the loader evaluated.
Okay.
We have the two, so that's the only general update I have. We have the two bids for the paving project from
Okay.
Pike and Blacktop.
Does Rick have a recommendation
Pike.
to go with Pike? Do you want to just read them so that everybody knows what the bids are?
Here, you can read them. I don't read them.
Oh. So, the bid,
Pass that off.
the bid from Pike, and so this is for the paving on the East Randolph Road. The bid from Pike is for $451,357.50. And that includes some reclaiming and fine grading and then paving over top of that for a portion of it. That's for both of these bids. And then the other bid is from Blacktop, and the bid is $488,748. And again, includes the same limits and work that Rick had described to them. So we have one bid for $451,000, one bid for $488,000. Rick has recommended we accept the bid from Pike at $451,000. And I guess my question is, do we have a motion?
I move to accept the bid from Pike for $451,000.
Second it.
Any discussion?
Bill moved and Lena seconded.
I guess I will add that, and I believe that this $175,000 of this is, per our discussion earlier, is the VTrans grant, and the rest is coming out of the paving fund, which was in the budget.
How much is coming out of the paving grant? What is the paving grant?
I believe it's $175,000. That's the discussion we had earlier, is. Next on the agenda was the position description. Oh, and one thing, Lena, if I could, on general updates, we were reposting our position as well, correct?
Yes, that it will be, it got skipped a week, but it will be in this next week's paper again.
So we haven't had any applicants.
We have one person that has shown interest, but was waiting to get more details of our benefits and such that we're offering. And I did mention that we will be changing some of our employee policies, and we're looking into life insurance and disability and more vacation time and such. And I'm not sure when that we're gonna go over that, which agenda, but so it has come up, and I'm just not like, you know, I've passed on what I know, but you know.
We didn't, is that something that we would be, I know we were looking into it, but is that something that we did not budget for that, right?
Well,
I think
what we did on highway department salaries is we had increased it, assuming that it was 3 full-time, and actually Rick had provided feedback and said, hey, by the way, we're 1 3/4 and you're quite a ways through the year, so I guess I would say, well, we may not have specifically budgeted for it. I think where we are, I'm assuming there's probably budget for it. We budgeted for increased salaries.
Right.
in the salaries that we increased, I think there still is there's flexibility there, but sort of the general feel that I'm getting is that we're gonna have to offer more if we want to get good candidates. I mean, at this point, it's been run in the paper for like 6 weeks and nobody's filled out an application.
Right.
So we're gonna have to think about Plan B and how long we run the ad without that before we, if we need to change to be competitive with other towns.
Does this person who's interested have experience?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an issue everywhere, and unfortunately, we're feeling it.
Have we put in a pay range into that?
We did not this week because we literally called the Herald at 10 of 12 and 12 o'clock was the deadline to get it run. So we just reran it to get it back in.
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
because Patty and Karen were both out, Gail helped me get that done today. So
you.
for next week, it will, I think we should put that in.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe we could work with Patty, if you wouldn't mind working with Patty when she comes back to put that salary range that we agreed to, which
Yeah.
I believe was 22 to 26, correct?
I think that's right, yeah. Yeah.
We have position description on the agenda.
That was, we never actually adopted the position that we
Okay.
did for the highway maintenance
Okay,
worker back when we did it.
okay.
I think I sent it out.
Have it right
Lena, will you
here.
mind sending that over to Jesse?
If
just so-
anybody wants to look it over first.
Okay, what, I'm sorry?
I said I have that, if anybody wants to look at it. This is the,
Is this what I sent out today? Or yesterday?
I think so.
Yeah, he said
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I
I sent it to everyone, I just, if anybody needed to look at it that didn't get to see
No,
it.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
How about Bill and I share? I
made
don't know
an
if you've
edit,
had a
like-
chance to look at it, Bill.
I'm sure, very minimal.
Yeah. I was-
Do you want, do you guys want to just talk us through the highlights of this, or anything that we should be aware of compared to what we were looking at before, or anything? I mean, not word by word, but if, are there any?
I don't know, I only have that copy, so it's,
So,
I guess I could find
it is drastically different than what we've had before.
Yep.
We actually outlined the need for a CDL, a medical card, drug testing, and we detailed more of the, we actually put in there on some conduct, professionalism, and detailed more of what the duties were.
Duties are, yeah. The original one was quite vague, and this is just more detailed of what the job actually is.
And has Rick had a chance to?
Yep.
Okay, and he's comfortable
happy
with this?
with it, yep.
Okay. I'm not sure that this needs a motion, but, I mean, I don't think it hurts.
We have to adopt it, right?
We have to move to adopt it, okay, you're right, so. When folks are ready, we can have a motion, not hurrying us along, but.
I move to adopt the highway maintenance worker job description.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Effective today.
Aye, effective April 11th, 2023. I think it'll be here.
Bill, did you second that?
Yes. Next on the agenda, and this we talked about last week. I haven't put it in a fancy, oh, I already left it for you?
Well, I stole one.
Oh, you did, okay. So, last week we talked about the process that we would go through for, whoops, I'm gonna make you stand up every time, Lena. Actually, I'm realizing, Greg, we could have shared this with you, seems how you're here, and Chris, if you were interested.
Thank you for staying on hold.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We should at least, yeah. So I apologize, we should have thought of that. This is just, we had talked about, kind of our process in terms of how we were going to review highway permits, and so both access permits and work within the town right away, we have two different permits. And what we talked about last week, and Lena and I talked through with Rick, was just kind of a step-by-step. And just to cover it briefly, the applicant would send their completed permit application to the administrative assistant. The administrative assistant reviews it just to make sure everything's there, that it's signed and the information's there. If not complete, you know, the administrative assistant would work with the applicant to make sure it is complete. Once complete, she'll log the application and send it to the road foreman, to Rick. Rick would review it with the applicants, and then he would make recommendations to the board with any applicable notes, either written on the permit or submitted in addition to the permit. So what we talked about was, like, we actually have one right here. Rick would just put a note on it, says, I've reviewed, I'm okay with it, or I reviewed and the culvert should be 24 inches, not 18 inches, or whatever. And then he would just sign and date it, so we know when he reviewed it. Then it would come before the board. If the board concurred, then the board signs the permit gets issued. If we had issues, we would just work with Rick to make sure we gain consensus with Rick, you know, if we saw something that we had questions or whatever. Once the board decides, the administrative assistant, Patty, would notify the applicant and record the decision. Just say, hey, we approved the permit on this such and such a date. And then what I did add, based on our conversation last week, was the applicant would work with the road foreman to schedule the work. And then upon completion of the work, the applicant would notify the road foreman for inspection and approval of the work, so that we were clear that, you know, what work was done, it was done to the satisfaction of the road foreman. And once it was, we're done and the process is complete. I added a note that just says at any time during the process, the applicant or road foreman can contact the board to discuss the permit application or the work performed. The contact should be through the highway department liaisons, so that way there, anybody out there, in this case it'd be Wayne or I, you know, if somebody had an issue or if Rick wanted to talk about something, start with us and then we could bring it to the board.
You guys drew this up?
Yeah, Kevin and I
Yeah.
talked with Rick about it.
Yeah, we talked about it with Rick and then just
Yeah.
kind of typed it up, so and Rick, I'm pretty sure Rick responded to the email that said he was good with this process, so. What?
Can we change, we're trying to get our titles, can we change road foreman to, can we give feedback on the document?
No.
Yes.
Yes, of course, of course.
All right.
I know the cameras roll, I'm just kidding.
It's highway supervisor.
Can we do highway supervisor but get rid of road foreman?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. We're actually doing that slowly across all the documents we're coming upon, so.
So highway supervisor?
Yes.
Okay.
And that seems to be consistent with.
So, excellent, happy to do that. Are there any other changes or any concerns with the process?
Yes. Is it required by statute that something have to be recorded in the town clerk's office?
Yes, once
Yes.
they're done, there's a book that they get put into.
Yep. And it says, and record the decision, number 8, at the end, it says, and record the decision.
So like, once the application is all done, Karen has a book, and they all get put in that book.
Okay. Okay, so to me, it sounds like the administrative assistant was gonna record it somewhere, but the administrative assistant has to give it to our town clerk.
Town clerk.
Who has to collect $15 to record the decision for statute.
I will modify it.
Yeah,
to-
we should probably have Karen take a peek at it. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Okay, thank you.
So, there's been a couple of
This is great.
there's been a couple of edits noted. And, oh,
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Reading point number 7, if the board does not concur, there will be a discussion and site visit to reach a consensus. It's not entirely clear if that site visit is expected to include the applicant, specifically exclude the applicant, or if the applicant's participation is optional. You may want to,
yep, that's a good point.
either of those 3 is fine, but you might want to be explicit.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point.
Okay, also encourage that we find out what the timeline is. That will help, like Rick with his planning.
The timeline.
Like when we get these applications,
Right.
you know, like, I don't know if they're looking to go in tomorrow, you know, so
Sure.
if Rick's gonna make plans to meet with them and go and look at it, would it be helpful to kind of know when they wanted to start?
Do we need to update the application so that we can include a
I
little
think-
more information?
Yeah, because I
Or-
think we need to include about the filing fee and statute on the
On
actual
the
application.
application, yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we put something in writing.
So-
Thank you.
We have a draft process. I think we've agreed on some edits to it, which are, I think, are pretty straightforward. And I will work with Karen to just make sure that she reviews this. Question is, do we want to pass a motion tonight to kind of adopt this with edits so that we can say we have a process for our access permits and our work within the town right away permitting process? With that, I think we can, there's a couple of things that I'll note. One is, I agree, I think we should look at our applications, but I think that we can take that separately. The other thing that we need to do in outside of this process is we need to go through and edit, probably in a separate document, make clear what our expectations are in terms of when a permit is needed. And that's separate from the process, but, and as an example, you know, the clear, like, the Durkees were here last week, and they're putting a water line and open trench cutting across. There is some, and please don't quote me on this, but I did go through the Title 19 statute and I read through it. There is some ability for there to be interpretation on what requires it and what doesn't. I mean, technically, if I went out in front of my house, which I do every spring, and the ditch fills with winter sand, and I want to rake and shovel it, it's technically work within the highway right away. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I think based on the discussion with Rick, I know how he feels. That's a little silly, right? And so I think we can come up with a separate document to this that just talks about when a permit is required and when it's not, so that it's very clear.
Yeah.
That would be helpful for the public as well.
Right, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Absolutely,
absolutely. When
yeah.
do you need a permit? So,
Right.
I think, this doesn't, if we
Might be a
decided we
whole other
wanted,
page on our website.
right, if we decided we wanted to pass this
With a link to the
process,
permits.
we could do that tonight, knowing that there's still other work that we need to do, but this is at least a step in
Yeah.
the right direction.
I move to adopt the Town of Chelsea access permit and work within the town right-of-way permitting process with edits,
As we noted tonight.
as we noted tonight.
I second it.
Any further discussion? One down on this then. I will work with, I'll make sure I run it by Karen. I'll make sure that I make the edits. And then,
This is really great. I'm sorry I started out asking if I could give feedback. I just want.
yeah, well, I've almost just shut it completely down. No, I'm kidding. No, it was good.
It's in work
It
mode, I'm
was-
sorry.
it was very good feedback. Thank you. Well, there's pieces, we all added to it, and there's pieces that I missed, so I
know.
appreciate
Well,
that.
Yes, I didn't even think of it because we switched it all with the job description to highway supervisor.
No, good feedback, absolutely.
Do you want my sheet with edits at all?
Oh, you took some notes, okay.
I'm sorry?
I was gonna offer you my sheet with edits if,
Oh, well, if you want to hand it to me, Jesse, I'll take it just in case my notes aren't great. So, thank you.
Lena, you seconded that?
I seconded it, yes.
Thank you.
That seems like progress
Yes.
Absolutely.
on all of those things highway related, and Rick has got the okay to schedule the work for the East Randolph Road.
Yeah.
It would be great if, when he does that, it'd be great to know, just so that we know if we're talking with folks. And
Yeah.
it's actually something that we should, once Rick knows a rough schedule, it'd probably be something that we should post out there that just says, hey, by the way, everybody, the work's coming.
Did you want, I forgot to do this with general updates, we had asked Rick to get like a ballpark on what a cost of a new truck and a new loader would be. And so he called International, and, it's gonna be for a new truck, replacing the 10-wheeler, which would be the truck Paul drives. between 270 and 280,000.
That's it. Oh, good.
And a loader for a 544, I think that was a Cat, which is comparable to what we currently have, is about 210,000. And he thought that our truck would be worth in the ballpark of like 60,000, and that our loader probably in the ballpark of 30. And he said that he's happy to go through and get like more accurate, you know, prices on things if we knew what, you know, when we know sort of more which direction we want to go with which piece of equipment we want to replace, which I think is gonna not really be decided until we have the evaluation of the loader.
And I'm so sorry, did you say that was an international?
Yeah, he didn't, when he does the pricing like permanent for the trucks, he'll call Freightliner and get one of those. They're gonna be similar, but we just wanted a ballpark so that we.
No, I think that's good. I think, at least for me, and I won't speak for everybody, it would be great if we could, and Rick, I think even mentioned the day we were down there, that he's got something handwritten on what the pieces of equipment are that we have.
Yeah.
Like, to build a capital equipment plan, and I'm happy to, and I think Two Rivers might even have, or VLCT has something that, for me, I'd really like to see, okay, this is where we're at, and this is where we're headed, and I think I mentioned it before, we've done a similar thing with the fire department, with the trucks, so that we can just kind of get an annualized, what is this gonna look like?
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a good thing. I think right now he's kind of got his hands full with, you know, he's
Sure.
made some great progress. I saw him on a grader today, so.
Oh, yeah,
he's
absolutely.
doing
Well-
that, but I think that hopefully we'll get somebody hired and
Yep.
maybe his work schedule will lighten up a little bit so that he'll have a little bit more time to sit down and do those things. But right now, I'm not gonna lie, I feel kind of guilty trying to get him to sit down and talk about replacing equipment when he has miles and miles of dirt road to grade.
Well, I
And-
guess my point is,
Yeah.
I think he said he had it.
He has a
So
rough
if we can
list,
get
but
a
it's-
copy of that, we can start with it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a list of that, but it basically just lists the equipment in the year. It doesn't, it's
Okay.
not like a replacement list, it's just an equipment list.
So, can we get that list to Patty and have it typed up so we at least have a list of the assets electronically?
Yeah, I mean, I think he
that
has
would-
it, it's printed copy he gave me, so he can,
Oh, he's got a
Oh,
file.
so-
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I thought it was handwritten.
no,
Okay.
it's a copy.
But I wonder if we should get that into Patty's hands?
Yeah. I
So that
was-
we have a central location for it.
Yeah, I think we should, but I was gonna try to update it and just get a rough amount of hours and miles on pieces of equipment, because, you know, and maybe even update that a couple times a year so that we know. So the next time I touch base with him, we'll just run through the equipment and do it, and then I can even, may do an updated list and send it to Patty.
Yeah, and I'm happy to work with you on a, oh, go ahead, Bill, sorry.
No.
Please, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it'd be good to have that set up so that we're checking hours and miles, you know, yearly, so we
Yeah.
can get a rough idea of how many hours we're putting on each piece of equipment, how many miles we're putting on each truck.
Yeah.
And that certainly would help determine as far as years in a replacement plan, you know?
The other thing is, I have an email from him that I had totally slipped my mind, is the pickup is just about out of warranty, and he wanted to know if we wanted to do an extended warranty on that, or if we just wanted the warranty to run out on the pickup.
Does he have a recommendation?
I mean, I think that his recommendation probably would be to do the warranty.
Can we get more information? Like I
Well,
feel like
and
I
that's
don't
what
even
I
know
asked him. I
yeah.
said, you know, what's included in the warranty, but I haven't heard back on that.
Or like, what is, I don't even know how many years old that truck is. Like,
It's a 15.
And I guess, like, the cost,
So-
what would the cost of extending the warranty and that kind of thing?
I think that was right there. I think. No, that's not it.
I think there's three things that we need to know: the cost of the extended warranty, the extra years that it's gonna gain us and the mileage, because I think if I had to guess, we're gonna run out of years before we run out of mileage.
So the miles on that is right around 55.
Right, but I'm saying, how many miles is it gonna add for the extended warranty?
Right, oh, right.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if I'm right there.
Yeah, so I guess if we had some of that stuff, it would probably be helpful.
I personally think it's a good idea to have extended warranty. 'Cause
So
I know
the extended warranty is gonna be for an additional 2 years, and it's gonna be $2,835.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
2-year coverage, and it's $2,835.
But it only goes 2 years, huh?
Yep.
Is that through Ford?
I'm assuming he didn't say.
And that would take us to the truck being 10 years old.
15. Yeah.
So maybe, Lena, you could forward that to us and we can put that on the agenda.
Okay.
Can you ask?
Or, I mean, it's up to folks if we wanna.
Well, can you ask Rick where that extended warranty comes from? I'm assuming it's through Ford, and if there's different options, there should be a few different options as far as the extended warranty itself.
So we're adding this to another, no, we don't know.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't feel
I guess
comfortable making, I don't feel comfortable. Like, I haven't wrapped my head around it yet, I guess, is
Yeah.
to make it.
Like I said, I asked him, for more information on what was covered under the warranty
Okay.
and stuff. And so is there anything else? And he hasn't had a chance to get back to me from that. Was there any other questions you wanted?
Whether it's through Ford.
Yeah, I asked whether it's through Ford or not, and
And see if
if there's different options.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they'll offer more years with less mileage, which
The truck doesn't get many
the
miles.
truck doesn't get a lot of miles. We really need the years of coverage. You know?
Right.
Right.
To your point, if it was, because the mileage is low, if it was 4 years versus 2 years or something like that, is that what yours?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So would this be on next week or May 2nd?
Let's, I'm thinking maybe we get through to the end and when we get to future agenda, we look at our agenda and see how
Sorry,
much.
thank you.
If that makes
Okay,
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the other question is our timeline? Do we have to like sign up
Well,
by?
he says it runs out in a few days.
Oh, do we have to decide before it runs out?
I don't know those details.
Oh,
So what is the additional, do we know the additional mileage we're gaining if we go for
He
2
just
years?
said 2 years. I mean, he said, good morning, was looking into the warranty on the pickup is going to expire. My computer went away in a few days. I was wondering if we should extend the warranty. Cost would be $2,835 for 2-year coverage. That's
$2,835, so.
For 2 years.
almost $3,000 for 2 years.
2 years.
I don't think it's worth that. Not for 2 years.
so it sounds like we may be in a situation where we have to decide tonight, which is unfortunate if we.
I don't know if it can lapse or not. I can find out. I can ask him tomorrow and find out and see, if it comes through Ford and if there are other options, and then, can we come up with like a baseline that we think is fair, and if we found a package that works with that, Kevin and I could talk as liaisons and give him the go-ahead to do it in the short term,
Yeah.
what we think is a reasonable thing, so if we can get it for, less money, or it's gonna go longer, than 2 years instead of miles, if we can find a better warranty for it. I think that's the only way we can make a decision if it has to be made in a few days.
It's tricky because we don't know anything. We don't know what it covers. We don't know
Right.
the mileage that it's
Yeah.
going to be extended to.
Unclear how many days a few days is too.
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
I don't
You know
think
what
we
mean?
should
If a
decide.
few days is 8, then we got
Right.
next week.
We
you know
have
what I
next
mean?
week, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with not making a decision tonight and then you guys deciding if it comes down to it. If you learn more information.
Yeah, I mean, depending on, well, I mean, technically, as liaisons, I think you need a board, you know, you need a board majority to make a decision on that.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't think so. That's what I was just looking at.
Oh,
I
well,
don't think we do.
well,
But I'd really like somebody else to check. But I don't think we do.
I mean, can we leave it as a board that Lena will find out the urgency and find out more information? And if it's, oh yeah, you know, Rick said a few days, maybe that's April 15th and maybe that's April 20th. If it happens to be April 20th, then we'll come back, we'll agree, we'll come back and have the decision next week.
Yeah.
If not, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I just thought of, we haven't made any decision on the grader, right?
No.
So do we want to review that tonight?
Well, I would like to maybe put a pin in that until we have our purchasing policy discussion, because I think that's why we waited last week.
So I did ask Gail about that, and she said that in the case of, like, Rick was asking our permission to go ahead and book that it doesn't have anything to do with the purchasing policy. She said that the purchasing policy gives Rick the ability to purchase things without our permission, but we as a board could make the decision to get the maintenance done on that.
Say that again.
So,
No, I'm sorry.
So I asked Gail about it because I was unclear, and she said that we as a board can agree, can give Rick permission. We can vote to have that maintenance done.
Okay, wasn't it over $5,000 though? I think the total.
Yeah, but he was coming for permission. He can do under a certain amount, but because it was over, he was asking our permission to do it. That's what the purchasing policy states. If it's over that amount, he needs to ask permission. He was asking permission from us for him to get the maintenance done on it. So that's what he was
Yes,
doing.
And I think we were trying to figure out where we landed with that. So it's all purchases over $5,000 require prior approval of the select board.
And it's in the $5,000 price range, so he was asking permission from us to get the maintenance done on the grader.
Yeah. Because it's considered a major purchase.
Right.
so
Yeah.
if it's okay, let's get to the
talk about that.
purchasing policy, agree to it and pass it.
Okay.
And then just come back and make sure we feel that we're in compliance with it.
Yes.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, because there was,
Just because we're,
there's a clause in there that we didn't add that was there.
okay.
Yeah.
So we're almost to purchasing policy, so, is there anything, the one thing that we do have, we actually have an application for an access permit that came in.
And if we're going by that, it should go to Rick before it comes to us. If we're
Right,
going by
exactly. And so Patty's not here tonight, so I just thought we'd make note that it came into us.
Okay.
It's an access permit, to a town highway to the Whitcomb Place by Richard Colby. And Lena, will you be seeing Rick?
Yeah, I can get
Okay, and so, and you can let him know that the process that we talked about is
Yeah.
what we'd be looking for. We'd be looking for him to initial date it, add any notes to it or whatever. And then once he gets it back to the board, and I'm thinking that maybe in the future, we just put, permits if applicable on, I think we should probably put that on every agenda. So like the village green usage and that kind of stuff, like it's always on the agenda. We're good on the website, we've covered that. Virtual meeting discussion, we just need to keep trying.
Yeah, I have the owls. I will try and get it set up. Google Meets does not allow free recording. It's $10 a month in order to have that access.
Okay.
But with that comes the use of like live and interactive YouTube. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But that's something we should definitely think about because otherwise we won't be able to record with Google Meets.
So, well, this is a good discussion. So we're working on getting the OWL set up. We've decided we're gonna go through Google Meets. I think we kind of
Yeah.
decided that. And we'd be able to record for $10 a month, we'd be able to record our meetings and then post them on YouTube. That sounds
Pretty
really,
reasonable.
I looked at Chris because Chris has given me advice on this before, but,
I mean, I think we are saving money on our website significantly anyways, so there's room in the budget if that's even part of the question, but
it's
it also seems like,
$120 a year.
yeah.
Should we pass a motion to allow, to have Jesse work with Gail and Patty to get us set up so that we can record Google meetings, and as soon as we can, we get the OWL up and running, and
Maybe even next
we can
week.
invite Chris to just come sit in the audience and
Chris.
and participate when he wants. He can come to our meetings and not have to lug all his equipment. You're still welcome to do what you're doing now, Chris, if you'd like.
Yes, we so appreciate it.
Right. Is there a motion that we want to, move forward Google Meets, $10 a month, and ask Jesse to work with
Gail.
Patty and Gail to do that?
I move to approve Jesse to move forward with Google Meets at $10 a month and work with Karen and Gail or Patty.
Yeah, Gail and Patty.
Gail and Patty, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I will just add that a conversation, and I forget who I was having with it, may have been one of you, but we are gonna have some growing pains just for folks, and I want to acknowledge that, well, first, let's acknowledge Chris. Chris, you've saved all of us and been a great service to the community, and we'd welcome you back anytime with your camera or just to join in the audience. But there is going to be an issue as we get started, because using an OWL and Google Meets is not professional videographer equipment at our meeting. And so the goal is to be virtual, the goal is to record them and have them up on a YouTube channel, but from lighting and from a sound quality, we're gonna have to work through the quirks to make sure we understand how that can work. I think it's the right direction for us to go, but, and for folks that are watching tonight, they're watching a professionally, there's one, but, folks are able to watch a professionally videoed live stream. And I don't say that because we want it to be lesser quality, but it's likely to be, and we're just gonna have to work through if we need additional equipment or whatever to make sure that we can make this work. Anything else in terms of discussion?
I think one thing logistically, I think the Google Meets link will be on the town website on the calendar so that people can just click on that.
Okay, excellent. And we may have to put it out there in a few different locations as we get started to make sure people see it, so, yeah. The goal will be to try it next week if we can.
Yeah, I think we try it with Chris here so we
If
can kind
Chris
of
is
like
willing,
have
yeah.
both options just to make sure it's smooth.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Perfect.
If Chris is willing, Chris, we can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
I know I've heard from a lot of folks that have watched these meetings. I was contacted by someone who I know who has a property in town but lives in Boston and who watched one of our last meetings, and that couldn't have happened without you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the purchasing policy. And we reviewed this quite a few meetings ago, and never finalized it, and I think the hope is tonight that we could actually finalize it.
Can I borrow one of these?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I actually have it, well, maybe I don't. Kelly had sent me the edited draft at one point, and this might not be the final one, so, okay.
Okay,
So if Kelly would talk us, if you don't mind talking us through the changes.
yes. So the changes were actually just restructuring of some of the sentences to make it easier to read. I also changed all the font to Arial, and I think I've been doing that throughout any documents that I've had, because that's kind of the go-to now for accessibility, I'm gonna say.
I'll do that in this document.
So basically, everything is the same on the first page. What I did, what I sent to you, is you can actually see, do you wanna see? I just realized we have a draft if you'd like.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you have an extra one of those, Kevin? Can I have one? I think mine's an older copy.
Thank you.
You,
Is there not?
yeah, Kelly, I think we,
I'll just use my
Sorry.
okay, what do you, I'm sorry, you want a copy, Lena?
Yeah, if you have it, or what date you sent it, and I can pull it up.
Here it is.
We can share.
No, well, here's the, at one point, and I printed it out, I think I printed out multiple copies. What is going on here?
Glasses. We're good, Kevin. I can look on.
Okay, well, here's the,
I'm trying to get it to,
here's the markup copy
yeah.
that shows the changes that Kelly made.
So the things in red are really what was changed or moved about. Although there was a red before it came to us, because there was an amendment made by the prior board in November. But anyway, so first page is really kind of self-explanatory. Second page, the purchasing authorities, we actually added the administrative assistant. I'm sorry, we actually added you don't have it on your copy, I'm sorry. I added it after I mailed that. I added our town clerk, who does make purchases. So I changed, under purchasing agents, I changed the language to read the following employees or appointed positions are designated to act as purchasing agents for the town.
Okay, so you added clerk.
So town clerk authorized to make incidental and minor purchases. Then, so the minor purchases was actually highlighted in red when we received it, so I think it's because Karen was starting to make an edit back in like February, when we first, maybe January, we actually increased the minor purchase limit up to $5,000 from $2,000.
Under purchasing authority,
Yes.
I think that we're missing water and wastewater operator.
Okay, should I add that in there? I actually removed it.
Oh, you did, okay. Not knowing for sure where we're going with it, and even if we end up under a contract,
We're still
they're,
responsible for purchasing.
an employee, or if it's under a contract, like the chemicals,
Yep.
they're gonna have to purchase the chemicals, like, that was, and I'm not trying to foreshadow where we're going.
Oh, really?
But if we end up in a contract, the way it would be, they need $500 worth of chlorine. They would purchase it, Gail would make the payment. is how that contract is
I made the
set up.
assumption like our assistant would, or like Patty would purchase it, like they would.
Oh, okay,
But
that's
I don't-
fair.
I don't know
Oh, okay,
if that's-
maybe that's the way, I hadn't thought through it.
Well, that was, I hadn't thought of the other option, but it felt like why would we be giving purchasing authority to somebody that didn't work
Right.
for us, and we had no ability to kind of manage.
Okay,
But I'm open.
I can see it either way. I mean,
Should
so-
I add something back in there?
Well, I'm just wondering because we haven't made a final decision. If we just
Right.
leave it water, wastewater operator, maybe like it was, knowing
Okay.
that it might be taken out depending on the agreement.
Okay.
If we end up with an agreement for a
Yeah.
contract.
Okay, so we're gonna add water, wastewater operator in here.
But as it was, or,
Yep.
you know. I guess it would be the same as, yeah.
And they would, okay, exactly what it was.
And then we can work out that relationship
Yeah,
if we end up in the contract.
okay. So the minor purchases is highlighted in red because it was increased to 5,000 or amended to 5,000 back in February, I think it was.
And we're okay with that without prior approval, but with due notification. So, just playing that out, any one of the people listed here wanna order us something for $4,000. They don't necessarily need our approval, but they need to notify us before they purchase it. That's the way I read
Yes.
this? Okay.
So I did change the Davis-Bacon, no, I'm sorry. That comes later, never mind. That didn't change. So then we added all purchases over 5,000 require prior approval of the select board. And then it talks about, which some of this is just sort of standard language, that we will not put undue limits to attempt to exclude people from being able to, submit bids, all that kind of stuff. What did change is the total amount of money that can be spent, and it went from, I believe, $100,000 up to $250,000. It went from 150,000 up to 250,000. So the government planned on inflation, on needing to seek quotes for using federal funding.
And this is where it says acquisitions with a value of
I'm actually-
10,000 up to the
I'm
amount of-
actually 2 paragraphs above that under federal funding. If federal funding is used for purchases.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. $3,000, but then there's this $2,000 if it has to do with wages. If you're,
Okay.
yeah.
And that federal fund, that $3,000 is the federal number?
It is, that's why I kind of questioned earlier when you had said that, and actually that was here before. And that's why I questioned when you mentioned earlier. So, and from everything I could find, it said 3,000, and I didn't change it from what we had in
Okay.
2018.
Okay. So that paragraph is just specific to the federal fund piece.
Yes. Then we have, for all major purchases, with a value between 5,000, actually, I should remove the word between, a value of 5,000
And above, yeah.
and above. Price and rate quotation shall be obtained from at least 2 qualified vendors. We actually, so our previous purchasing policy is that anything over $2,000 needed to have 2 qualified vendors. quotes from 2 qualified vendors. So this suggests raising that up to 5,000.
So any major purchases?
Just a quick suggestion, the wording pattern you use below, where you talk about purchases exceeding, actually fits well here as well. So you don't end up with a gap between $5,000 and $5,001. Then you can just say, purchases exceeding $5,000, and then the rest of it.
Thank you.
Good catch.
You know you're gonna get that $5,000 25 cent.
Right. We'll be in the gray area. So this is one thing that has come up or may come up is, should be obtained from at least 2 qualified vendors to ensure that the town. And that's one of those things, and as an example, had we not received Blacktop's bid today, we'd ask them, but we hadn't received one.
Right.
And it's been a set amount of time and we decide we need to move forward. Is this language okay? Or should we make it, where possible, or we should attempt to the greatest, extent possible, or something like that, just, or are we comfortable with saying we should?
Right.
This says shall. Question,
Also, the grader kind of falls under this because there's not 2 companies to give us a quote
Right.
on the grader, because everybody, it's John Deere, it's United Ag and Turf, no matter which John Deere dealership you go to.
Right.
So, and it's John Deere specific, so we're not gonna get a cat person to come.
Right.
So it's hard because in that instance, there's no 2 quotes to get in this area to get somebody to come do the service on the grader.
What I'm trying to think in my head is something I had read about, and I could not pin it back to that it had to be federal funding. But I was reading something about the 2 quotes. I think I mentioned it to you.
I mean, ideally you would, but in this case, there's not.
Yes, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying, and I was thinking there was language slipped in there somewhere, but it might have been for less.
Right.
The idea is we absolutely should get 2 quotes or attempt to get 2 quotes.
Right.
Whenever possible. And it's just like the conversation on the paving. Hey, Rick, I know we got the quote from Pike, but we should at least, we need to at least make an attempt to get a quote. That was a month ago. We need to move forward with it. We may have been in a situation tonight of we didn't have 2 bids. And that may happen from time to time. I want to make sure that our wording,
Allows.
it isn't a loophole not to do it, but it at least allows it.
Right, yeah, I agree, because there are gonna be times when that's necessary.
And so you don't think that's actually allowed by or you don't think that that's something that municipalities are required to do?
I don't think so, and I'll say this, and again, it comes back to my day job, but there's we use federal funds and we're required to solicit bids, but there's times that there's only 1 bid, and it might be a $4 million paving project,
Even when, Two Rivers was here, he said that sometimes you just can't get it, so
Right.
you
Right.
just, you make a note that there weren't 2 possible bids to get.
Yeah, we're in the process, I think, of awarding an $18 million bridge project that we advertised twice, trying to get bids, and each time we only got 1 bid. So, I think that we're able to do that, but I think we should have strong enough language that says, they should be obtained, quotations should be obtained whenever possible from at least 2 qualified vendors. And my only question is that too soft? I guess it's up to us. These are major purchases, so we have to approve it, right?
We have to approve it, right, so I feel like it gives us the potential, but ultimately it's gonna be us deciding, so it's not like we have to worry about other people making the purchases. It's purchases we approve.
Does that make sense, Kelly, if we were to?
It does. I am so stuck on what I read and trying to figure out if it was actually required of municipalities. Like, I'm going back to something I read. Everything you guys are saying makes perfect sense. And I am trying, because I had language in there, something about 2 bids if viable or if available or something like that. And then was reading and actually removed that and stuck with what we had previously.
And I'm comfortable with you reviewing
I'm
it.
okay. I don't need to review it anymore. I'm
You
done.
sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm positive.
So we would make,
So
we
where
would,
can where do
we would
add
change
this?
that to be under major purchases, the 3rd paragraph. It would say for all major purchases exceeding $5,000, price and rate quotations should be obtained whenever possible from at least 2 qualified vendors. And if there's better language, I'm just,
You can make a distinction between seeking and obtaining. Because if you seek it, right, if you use your example that you were talking about earlier between with pipe and blacktop, if you asked both of them for a bid and only one of them replied, you still sought a bid from both, you would fall within the qualifications of that, as opposed to obtaining it, which means you've got to nag somebody to submit a losing bid.
Right.
that's fair.
Yes, I like that language.
Excellent. There we go.
Price, so purchase.
Should be
is
sought whenever possible. Should be sought
Do you know
whenever
there's an
possible.
opening on the planning commission?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell you what you're wanting.
Purchases exceeding 5 and above, price and rate quotation should be sought
Whenever possible.
whenever possible. Thank you.
I mean, I think that, to me, that was, this section was the like gray area sticking point. And
Yep.
at our last meeting, honestly, we just got fuzzy.
After so many hours that happened.
Okay, perfect.
Purchases exceeding $5,001 and above.
Let me get rid of and above, because we already said exceeding. Price and rate quotation should be sought from, whenever possible, from at least 2 qualified vendors to ensure that the town has received a fair and reasonable price. Okay. Okay, so we've got that. Then the next thing was the acquisitions went from $3,000 to $10,000 and up to $250,000 from $150,000, and that was all based on new things passed by the federal government. And then the $250,000 requires a sealed bid, and then everything in the bid specifications was the same, except for we updated the website. I don't even remember what the old website is, but it's now sam.gov wage determinations, and it has to do with federal dollars. And everything else was standard. Except for in November, I'm sorry, professional services, last page. In November of 2022, the last board amended professional services. They amended this policy to up to $20,000, and I believe that was so a contract could be signed with Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Or audit. Or
No,
was it?
audit.
It was
Yeah.
the audit. I
Audit,
think it was the audit, yep.
I'm so sorry, thank you,
Yeah, no, it's,
So that we could have the audit done,
I don't know why I remember that, but
yeah.
I remember
That
my
didn't
name
sound
some
like
days.
Orange County, yeah. Looks great.
One thing that I think is important to just highlight as we're doing this, because we're talking about a sidewalk grant, we're talking about lawn mowing services, the bid submission. I think we all should just, we all we all just need to, because it says all bids shall be submitted in sealed envelopes addressed to the town as in care of the select board and plainly marked. I think we just wanna make sure that as we're moving, and it's not a big deal, so it's
Dated
just
and
as
signed.
dated and signed, like,
Yeah.
we just, anybody we're talking to, and as we move forward, this needs to be on the website, and we need to refer all of our bidders to our purchasing policy so they can go there, and it's just really clear what's required. So, if we end up passing this tonight, I suggest we get it up on the website, and any contractors we may be talking to about current projects out there, we're very clear that we say, you know, so that, I think it goes without saying, it's important that we follow our own policies. And those doing business with us, that we do the same.
I actually wouldn't think that we should talk with the people who we're going to designate as purchasing agents and review it with them as well, so that they're
Yeah,
aware.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe that's something that we could put on the various liaisons to the different groups. Just making sure that we're super clear.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put this, cause I need to.
You know, make sure, Snook and Christiane know what this, you know, we should give them copies of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Rick should have copies of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when we're talking about the wastewater, and obviously, you know, Gail and Karen and Patty,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna see it most likely anyway, but we should follow up with them and just make sure that they see it and they're good with it. That they see it and that we're following it, I should say, yeah. So with that said, is there a motion on the purchasing policy?
I move to, what am I adopting? Move to adopt the Town of Chelsea purchasing policy updates. Right.
I second.
Oh, should I say, on April 11th, 23.
Still second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Kelly, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That was an interesting and a little bit of a long slug to get to that point, so thank you.
So, and you do need to sign off on this.
Oh. Yes, there's a,
One.
actually, that's an excellent point. I have a clean copy right here. Oh, no, we can't because you're gonna make
You're
edits.
gonna make the updates.
Right.
So we can approve it tonight, and we'll sign it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
The orders are out there. Is there a motion on the orders?
I haven't, yeah, hold on.
There's only one.
I move to approve the orders for April 11th.
A second.
I'll give Kelly a moment. There's only that one. Everything else that's in the folder beyond that is stuff I stuffed back in there for Gail.
Oh, okay.
And she said
Oh,
to
yeah.
just leave it on the table.
Yep.
Right here.
Okay, so, who moved to, Lena, you moved? Or
Jesse, I seconded.
Any discussion on the approve the orders? All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded?
I seconded.
Thank you.
So, not to beat the dead horse, but are we gonna go back to the grader servicing?
Oh,
Yes.
well, thank you. Thank you. Now,
I
we'll
didn't- well, I just-
cover that next meeting.
So-
No,
I know Rick wants to get that done, that's all.
yeah.
Well, knowing what we just did, we now can do it.
Right, well, right, but we need to officially approve it, which Lena asked us at the
Right.
last meeting, but
Absolutely.
this was a little bit of a swirl, so I guess,
We couldn't have done it at the last meeting.
It was in conflict with our purchasing policy at the last meeting.
Oh, that's a good point. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we clarified that. Moving forward,
I forgot her.
so there's a request to do the service on the grader. Rick estimates it would be about $6,000?
5,000.
About 5,000, okay. But assuming that it might be over 5,000 per purchasing policy,
Yeah.
the board needs to approve it, so.
It's in
is-
that ballpark, so
Yeah.
it could be over, so if you
Yep.
want.
So is there a motion?
I move to approve the servicing of the grader as requested by Rick.
Second.
Discussion? One thing that I think would be helpful, and it's not necessarily just specific to this grader request, but as these are coming in, depending on who they are, these major purchases, that we get something that just says, hey, and Lena and I talked about it earlier, the situation we're in right now with Rick doing heroic work all winter long and stuff, get it in terms of, but as we move forward, it'd be kind of nice to have that sent out and be in a meeting package that just says, hey, you know, here's what it is, as we're moving towards meeting packages, it says, you know, in this case, it's the grader, it's probably gonna be more than 5,000, this is what it is, you know, and that way there, it just help us be more prepared as we come into the meeting, kind of thing. And again, not speaking to this grader thing, I'm just using it as an example, but as we move forward with major purchases, I think it'd be really nice, that's just my opinion, I don't know how others feel, but we just kind of get it ahead of time so that we can.
And it would be great if we can have them out. I'm gonna ask Patty if we can start sending those out on Friday, was my thought.
The meeting
Or
packages.
The meeting
Yes.
packages on Friday,
Yeah.
so that we would have all of the documents together. So things as they come in will still come out.
Yeah.
But then if we know, like, something like this is gonna come, it can go.
Yeah, like this I didn't have
Yeah.
time with because
Yeah.
I tried to touch base with him like just before the meeting, so if anything came up last minute,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then, but,
Yeah,
I
and
can
I'm not
try to
picking on
pass
this
it.
grader
Right,
thing, I'm
but-
just using it as an
Yeah.
example.
I can try to touch base with him
Yep.
sooner also.
You know, whether it's the
Or-
wastewater plant,
Or going forward, just be like, if you, just let me know sooner rather than later so that I can
Yeah.
get it out there.
Well, and it sounded like the warranty, he sent you a quick email on that, like
Yeah.
just a quick
Yeah.
email that just says, here's what it is, so.
Yeah.
And that's across everything. And again, recognizing there's gonna be times that that's not possible.
Right.
I mean, you know, whether that's a part that broke down at the sewer treatment plant or a truck that broke down somewhere, you know, don't stop what you're doing to,
Right.
you know, go get a part that's necessary.
Right.
Future agendas, next. So, just to oh, sorry, Bill.
Before you get to that, can I just go over these few things about the dump?
So did we actually all in favor approve the thing?
Yes.
We all said
Oh,
aye.
no, we didn't. All in favor of moving forward with the grader?
Aye.
We made a motion, we just didn't.
We didn't finish it because
Anybody
we're
opposed?
in
Yeah, I
conversation.
yacked again. Good.
Oh yeah, we had transfer station as an addition.
Okay. We did add to the agenda tonight, transfer station pricing.
Yeah, I spoke with Snook, so under, for our construction dumpster, so under furniture and like mattresses, there's a list. And he suggested adding $2 to both of those lists. So like sofa, sleeper sofa, recliner, twin, full, queen, all those mattresses and things like that. He suggested adding $2 to the price of getting rid of each of those.
What are we currently charging?
So like a twin mattress, we charge $10, so it would go to 12.
And how do we pay for those to be taken away?
By the ton. So we pay by the ton, but they also charge a dumpster removal fee.
Have our prices increased?
For
That I don't know. I need to check on it.
The transfer station's operating at a deficit.
I'm pretty sure, to bring a dumpster and remove it, it's probably about $1,000 to do that.
It's in our orders, I've seen it. I can't remember
And
exactly
that-
what it is, but.
That'll usually cover 2 ton, and I mean, I would say on average you get, you can get 4 to 5 ton into a dumpster, and it's like 180 or 90 additional a ton after the 2 ton.
Do we, think, so are we, what am I trying to say? Why raise prices on those things? Like, do we think that that's, are we trying to generate revenue? Or do we know that we are supplementing those items?
I'm going to look at at all of our prices here, because I don't know the answer to that. I'm just going off what Snook has kind of said to me as far
Did he
as
give
what
you
he
any,
thought.
background on why he thought that?
I mean, I do believe we're not breaking even on maybe construction dumpster. If I just had to guess. I mean, the other thing that we have to factor in is if it's rained for 3 days before they pick the dumpster up, we're paying for a lot of water weight.
No way around it.
So, I was just reminded that Christiane actually sent you and I an email. I don't know if you saw that. It just said.
Is this about? Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
Snook had asked me to speak to you about increasing the fee for disposing of mattresses, couches, and chairs by $3. That was $3.
Okay.
I forgot to bring this up at the last meeting, but Snook thinks it's imperative the increase be established before we get our household items dumpster so that everyone is charged the same from the start. That dumpster will likely arrive next week. Is it possible to add this to the agenda of this week's meeting? Snook's reasoning for the increase is that these items are frequently disposed of and take up a lot of space in the dumpster. The slight increase would bring the fees for those items closer to the real volume they occupy, as we charge by the cubic yard for all other household items.
There's the answer.
Sorry, I just,
Yep,
as you were
good.
talking, I was like, hey, I've seen
Glad
this
you brought
before.
that
So I guess the proposal then would be $2 or $3, Bill?
Well, that's what Snook said, but it says 3 in the email, so
Right.
I don't.
What do we think?
I think Snook knows, and we are operating at a deficit up there, so
Right.
anything we can do to
I mean,
sort of help.
In the near future, I do want to go through this whole list and do a little calculating and make
Yeah.
sure we're somewhere where we need to be.
Right, and we've got a lot of discussion there, whether it's bag fees or
Yeah,
scales or,
yeah,
for
yeah.
the future, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question, I guess, from me to you, Bill, is Christiane says Snook asked to increase it by 3. But I guess is it 2 or 3, and once we decide that, if there's a motion, then we should make one and move forward.
I mean, when I talked to Snook Monday, he said 2.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe we start with 2 and see, kind of how we end up.
Do it slow.
Right, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Is our motion?
I move to approve the $2 increase on mattresses, chairs, and couches.
So it'd be furniture and
Furniture
mattresses.
and mattresses.
That kind of groups everything together.
At the transfer station.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The other thing off
Now
of
I'm
it.
done.
That's fine.
Now future this.
Well, and so that is a good point on future agendas, and we all need to where we can, make sure that we're getting these in, to the point that was made. We need to post our agendas at least 48 hours. I think it's 48 hours before a meeting. We try to do them on Fridays. So what I'm hoping we start doing is by Thursday morning, before a meeting, we get all of our agenda items to Patty. So that if we know there's different things, and there are things that will come up, obviously, but we make sure that we get them into Patty so that she can get them on the agenda. We can review the agenda. A question I have for folks is, does everybody want to review the agenda? Or, I know when the previous board, when Jeff was still here, he just worked with whoever was doing it, and they set the agenda. I'm happy doing it however folks want. We just get a ton of emails. But if everybody gave Patty their agenda items, I'm happy to work with Patty and just say, okay, everybody, by Thursday morning, take all your agenda items, so let's put them all together, and we'll kind of meter them in and put them in order and that kind of stuff.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we have for our next agenda, so just to remind us, and I need to make sure we reach out, is for what we had said kind of way back when, and we're at the end of what we had said for let's meet a whole bunch and here's a whole bunch of reasons, was next week would be, so April 18th would be the Energy Committee, Phil Mulligan, who is I think our one-man Energy Committee, who's potentially stepping down. ARPA funding was inviting Chris Byrne, Andy Pomerantz, and Phil in to talk about ARPA funding. We need to make decisions on that, and that would just kick that off in the discussion. They could explain to us the list that was sent out. Jesse may not have that list. I'll make sure you get that. It was submitted like last September by an ARPA committee, and we still haven't acted on it. We'd put on there to invite Tracy Simon to talk about emergency management.
Yeah, we could put her towards the top. She just has to give us the emergency management plan, and then we all just have to adopt it.
Okay.
So she said she's coming in person.
Okay.
With a physical copy. I can ask her to bring.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be great. And if she has electronically that could be sent in advance, that would be even helpful as well.
Okay.
And while Andy Pomerantz is here, and Andy sent me a list of questions, and I need, I've looked at them, but I need to digest them and forward them to the rest of the board. I'd like to add the listserv, because there was a community listserv that was established for the purpose of the ARPA funding. It's been a while since I talked to Andy, so Andy, if you're watching, I apologize. I may not get it completely right, but Andy's willing to kind of keep the listserv up and running, recognizing it's not a full town sanctioned listserv. There's rules and different things that he would talk through with us, but it would be a way that we as a board could get information, and an additional way that we could get information out there. And I don't see a lot of things. I'm on the distribution list, but when it does come through, it's good stuff. So Energy Committee, ARPA funding, emergency management listserv would be 4 things for next week. And then there's also the things that we talked about tonight.
And can we just do like highway equipment updates so that?
If the loader's gone through, hopefully.
Yep.
Or we'll have a date for that, just to touch base on that.
Yep, so what I've got written down is basically the same grants that we talked about tonight, just keeping those moving.
Yeah.
The website review, we get a walkthrough on the website. I've got highway equipment.
At some point, I gotta get the transfer station into a meeting somewhere. It's not, it's not like an emergency, so.
Okay, so we did talk about one thing for the May meeting. May meeting would be sidewalk bids. Yep. And so maybe tentatively now we put transfer station on the May 2nd.
Yeah, that's fine.
And invite Snook and Christie in, is that what you're thinking?
Let's just remember that May's second meeting is the
Yeah.
site for.
I want to
place.
talk, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'd like to talk about that as well. But on the transfer station, when we do get it on the agenda, you invite Snook and Christie in to the,
Yeah,
okay.
we can if we're gonna go over the part about what we might potentially do as far as
Yeah.
either coupon system or something like that.
Right, yeah, and it's the start of, would be the start of a conversation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that might be.
I mean,
Could we
have
just
they
do it
done
all?
any research and like figured out cost of maybe tickets and bags so that they can come with an idea?
I don't know if they have or not. That's one thing that I was gonna look into also, is
And
some
we'll-
sort of system.
And we can put it tentatively on that agenda. The site visit for the Rices. And I recognized, and actually Kelly and I had a conversation that our board agendas are packed. And we said, hey, we'll do a board meeting, we'll all go up there, and then we'll adjourn and come back here. That's probably gonna take a substantial amount of a meeting.
Yeah,
I'm still comfortable doing it if we want, but an alternative approach would be Lena and myself and Rick going up there, going through it with the Rices. And anyway, it's a town highway, any of us can go up there at any time.
right.
But maybe not doing it as an official, and we could come back to the board, everybody could go look at it when they want. And we could come back
Yeah.
and say, here's what we recommend.
Yeah, and then we're not using our meeting time doing it.
Right, I mean, we just, and I'll just say this, I mean, we've gotta get out of weekly meetings. It's just, I think it's not sustainable. I didn't count, but since January, we've had a lot of meetings. And not that none of us don't wanna be committed to doing the right thing, but it's just not sustainable, especially going into the summer months, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
So,
I'm used to it by now.
Although the dying weather, I'm not gonna lie, it killed me a little bit, stop working
Yeah.
outside to
Yeah.
come down here tonight.
So, well, once you get your lawn raked, if you want, I'm just over the road.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
thank
actually
you.
have rakes, so.
Well, pick Kevin up and then you guys can come to my house.
Right. So, we have to warn it then, Bill.
I know, I was gonna say, is it a meeting then?
So,
Yeah.
I guess what I was, depending on how folks feel, it might be the type of thing, Lena, where you and Rick and I could save the same date, we could get a hold of the Rices, and maybe we go up there at 5 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
And then we come to the board, the Rices could come to the board, and we could talk it through that night, and just have that be top on the agenda that
Yeah,
night.
I think that's a great idea.
And I don't,
That's fine. with
I
me.
kind of pushed on that because I had some, of all of us going up there, but it might just be, somebody put a little bug in my ear that might eat a lot into our agendas. And I hate to admit it, but she was right.
So do you wanna move it to 5 o'clock and I can let Rick and the Rices know?
Yeah.
Do you think 5 o'clock
Is,
is enough?
is,
That's
every,
fine.
is everybody
Yeah.
comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we capture that in the minutes as well, just because folks that saw our last meeting said, no, we'll have and it'll be in the agenda and everything, so.
Yeah.
That's all I had on future agendas. One thing does anybody have the liaison list?
It's at
Handy.
home.
Planning Commission? Is that Bill and myself?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just, we're all comfortable that Bill and I, per the conversation earlier,
Yeah.
Bill and I are gonna move forward with kind of the planning commission piece?
Yep.
Okay. Which I need to remind myself of the things that I'm gonna be doing. I agreed to. Okay.
So just since we're on the liaison,
4:27,
what does the ARPA money fall under? Which liaison position? It's
don't-
not
I don't-
really under
It's
one,
a-
is it?
No,
Okay.
I think it's a board.
I missed.
What's that?
What is ARPA? I think that was
The American Recovery something
It's
Act.
a big grant that we got awarded that we.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
That was
You
before
don't-
me.
Yeah, way before you.
Well,
It
we
was
awarded
before
it-
us.
We awarded it last year.
Year.
It's from the federal government. It's 348,000 or something like that.
To be used.
Yeah.
It's pretty
there's-
wide open.
Yeah, well, it started out as being pretty strict guidelines of what you could use it for, but they've opened it up to allow more things in. So I think we should probably sort of update ourselves on what that money can be used for, because as I recall, I believe, there were quite a few things on the list that came from the community that just wouldn't qualify for that money.
Yeah, we need to, and we'll go through it with,
Right, but maybe we should try to read up and just freshen ourselves up on what that money is actually.
Who would have that? Would it be,
I have it. I'm gonna just resend it to everybody right now, the list
or
that
not the list, but
Oh.
who would have the grant requirements?
there's a fair amount on the VLCT website.
Yeah,
thank
And I do, I think Chris and Andy, and I've talked to Chris and Andy, I haven't talked to Phil, but I think they also probably have a pretty good handle on it
And so they are going to be here next
week. Yeah, I've gotta reach out and make sure, but. I just resent it to all of us, just so it's fresh. Well, I need to reach out. We could have Patty reach out if she's back in the office, but I've talked to them, so.
Could we maybe ask
Them to go through the list since they're pretty, and maybe take off some of the things that just don't qualify.
I think we invite them in and we get an update from them, and there probably will, I don't anticipate us,
Narrow it down a little, because I know there was like a town swimming pool and
I don't
with that.
anticipate us making a decision next week.
Yeah.
So, I think I will reach out to, I talked to Chris about it previously, I think I talked to Andy too, and when I invite them, just say, hey, if you guys know things to scratch off the list, in fairness to them, since September of last year, there may even be updates on eligibility, so it's something we'll have to go through.
I think that Mr. Frenier sent us an email a month or more ago. It was requesting money.
Oh, for the
towards
dental hub.
the dental hub,
Yep,
yeah,
you're right,
as part of the ARPA funding.
yep, so that should be, you're right. March 10th. Attached is an updated request for 50,000 in ARPA funding for the Health Hub Dental Program. So we'll put it all together next week and just, I think we gotta determine where we wanna go with it, so. Okay, so are we good with future agendas?
Do you know if there's anything in there on IIJA funding as well?
In terms of the ARPA list?
Just it's a separate thing. The ARPA, I think, is like American Recovery
Right.
Plan or something, and
Yeah.
IIJA is Infrastructure Investment.
Right, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, yeah. There's nothing on the ARPA list for that, I don't think,
I
but
didn't know if there's a parallel thing happening with IIJA.
I don't know that there is. And that's probably a good question for Two Rivers, actually. I don't know if Rita and Peter covered that. There's definitely programs out there. I was having a discussion just
Getting
today.
a lot of the funding trickles through the same way as the standard mechanisms for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And I know like on the infrastructure, well, the transportation infrastructure side of things, like it all trickles through VTrans. I was in a conversation today about, it's a PROTECT program, which is resiliency for transportation, and whether or not there should be a program for municipalities or not, kind of thing.
Well, no,
So,
like the
yeah.
IIJA stuff has some things on water and wastewater
Yeah.
as well.
We are plugged into some, we get, I don't know, once every 2 days, we get an email about a different grant program or something out there that's come from the League of Cities and Towns or somewhere. And there are some, now that you mention it, there are some IIJA related things there too. Are we good with future agenda items? The only other thing on the agenda was executive session, personnel if necessary, and I think the only thing that we had there was we had talked about employee salaries, and there was still some discussions left to be had. So the question is whether or not we need an executive session to just confirm all of that and move forward.
I'm all set.
Yes.
What's that? We do need the executive session?
Well, no, yes, we need to confirm all that and move forward. But does it have to be executive session?
No, I don't think so,
Or
as
is
long
it
as we're
just
not,
what we agreed on?
as long as we're not talking about specific
Yeah.
individuals or
I
salaries.
think as long as everybody is okay and there's nothing that needs to be discussed, we can just approve it.
Yeah,
and,
if everybody's had their
Talks, we can
conversations,
approve the
then
salary increases and.
I think we'll be fine.
As discussed in previous meetings. Good. I guess in that case, we won't have executive session, but, is there a motion?
I move to approve the salary increases as discussed at previous meetings
And with an effective date?
and with an effective date of
We'd said April 16th.
April 16th.
Yep. So there's a motion to approve the previously agreed upon salary rates for employees with an effective date of April 16th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has passed. Any other business this evening? You're good, okay. Thank you for joining us and sticking this
Yeah.
out with us.
Yeah.
We had a goal of 9 PM tonight and it's 9:31. Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
My COVID brain is still in mush.